Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the red button here at the Lee Valley Velo Park for the penultimate day of action from the UCI World Track Cycling Championships. It's been going very well for Great Britain cyclists so far. 2 gold medals, 1 silver, 3 bronzes, and there could be more to come tonight. Jason Kenny is through to the semi-finals of the men's sprint. We will see how he gets on. Hopefully he will make the final as well. Mark Cavendish lies 5th going into the final event of the Omnium, the points race, so the podium remains in his sights. And Laura Trott currently leads the women's Omnium after 2 events. Tonight we'll see her in the discipline she enjoys the most, the elimination race. And Emily Nelson will make her World Championship debut as well tonight in the points race. So Sir Chris Hoy and Dame Sarah Story are with me. Now, Chris Hoy, you've made a very bold prediction on Twitter moments ago. What did you say?
Well, I said I thought Jason would win gold, and I thought that Laura would win the elimination race.
Sarah, do you agree with that positivity?
I really hope that's true. That would be absolutely perfect.
Well, it's going to start very, very soon with the men's sprint semi-finals. Now, the key to sprint racing, you know all about it, Chris. What must Jason Kenny do?
He has to have a game plan. He has to try and stick to that, but also be flexible. You have to control the race, dictate the race. If you wait to let your opponent dictate, then you're going to be in the back foot and you're going to be struggling. When
you decide to press go, do you go straight to 100% of your effort, or do you leave a tiny, tiny bit in the bank?
There's no strict right or wrong way of doing it. It's about getting yourself in the right position with the minimal effort to leave the effort as late as possible. Believe it or not, you can only maintain a maximum peak power for a matter of 2 or 3 seconds.
Really?
So it's about using that peak of power at the right moment. If you use it too soon, you'll die off before the end and your opponent will come past you or will defend.
Jason Kenny seems to be a man who needs the big event to really cycle, to ride at his best.
His strength is that he stays very, very calm, and that can be a weakness at times in races that aren't as important, because he sometimes struggles to get the best out of himself. But when it comes to the big occasion, like the World Championships in front of a home crowd or the Olympic Games, he just seems to be able to be unfazed by it and perform at his very best.
Sarah, just briefly, let's talk about Laura Trott, because we're going to see her in action again tonight. She's had the busiest schedule, really, of anybody, and seems to be loving it.
Oh, absolutely, and she absolutely loves racing at this track as well, and especially because it's going to be the elimination race for her this evening. This is kind of her favourite race within the Omnium. She seems to be able to control it like nobody else can, so excited to see how she goes about it this evening.
Why does she enjoy it so much?
I think it's just the way she exploits the weaknesses of the other riders. She talks about staying at the front half of the bunch in the early races, early laps, and then when it comes to the final 6, 7, 8 riders, she goes from the back and just picks them off in the sprint.
Well, here we go with the first of the men's semi-finals, or the first of of potentially 3 races in the first semi-final. Let's join Chris Boardman and Simon Brotherton.
Thanks, Claire. Evening, everyone. And Matthew Glaetzer here from Australia will lead off on the opening lap. Glaetzer, the Commonwealth Keirin champion. He was the fastest qualifier in this competition. 9.766 seconds his time for the flying 200 meters. Denis Dmitriev, the rider from Russia, up against him here in this semi-final. And Dmitriev has won a medal in each of the last 3 years at the World Championships in the sprint. 2 silver and 1 bronze. So he is searching for that elusive world title.
Both of these riders carrying the new onboard cameras as we switch to that view now. I'm not sure they were too keen, having spent so long getting all their equipment aerodynamic, and then UCI insisting they put a box on, but it's certainly great viewing for us as the race starts to move up a gear now with a lap and a half to go.
Well, Glaetzer's been really good already in this competition, seeing off the defending world champion Gregory Bourget in the last round, and he's going to lead out from the front here, and getting that inside line out the front on the last lap has been really good for the riders so far in this competition. It's very hard to come round. Dmitriev's having a real go, but Glaetzer holds on. He leads by 1-0 in this best-of-3 semi-final.
10-2 around the bottom, so quick time, but he totally dictated that. I thought Dmitriev may try to do something, perhaps lay off a little bit more, but I think when he saw he was so close onto the wheel with a lap to go, Glaetzer thought, well, I'll have this. He's getting no advantage for being behind me. He's just going to have to go the long way round, and he couldn't do it. Fantastic shot, that.
So tight, but Glaetzer leading from the front and making sure that he stayed there. And you can see there, as they came up towards the 9, Dmitriev knew that he was going to have to try and save a little energy for that second ride, a ride which he must emerge victorious. Otherwise, that man there from Australia, the 23-year-old from Adelaide, will be going through to the World Championship final. Blake's already a world champion once in a team sprint. But we'll turn our attentions now to the other semi-final. There's Jason Kenny, the Olympic champion. It's been 4 years since he last won a medal in the World Championships in the sprint, a silver medalist in Melbourne back in 2012, a former world champion from 2011. But Kenny has looked very good in this series of races, in this competition. He was quick in qualifying, and he's looked very, very sharp so far, Chris.
I think, dare I say, it's the best he's looked since the last Olympic Games. He does look good and at exactly the right time. There was grumblings at the start of the week about the form of the team. Are they good enough? Are they not? Well, I think he's just quietly got on with it. And whatever the result of the competition after this, he's looked very good, hasn't he?
He certainly has. Who's he up against? Well, Damian Zielinski from Poland there coming up to the line, a very experienced competitor. Doesn't have a long palmarès, despite having a long career. He's 34 years of age. He raced at Athens in the Olympic Games back in 2004. He does have a World Championship medal, though, at home from the team sprint in 2011, where Poland finished as bronze medalists. And Jason Kenny just leads off on this opening lap. A real game of cat and mouse, the match sprint, a very tactical event.
One thing worth mentioning at this early stage is the French have been very lacklustre at this Games, very below par considering how dominant they were just a year ago in Paris, and we've been just trying to wonder why that is, but they've been pretty low across the board, really. Yeah,
we've hardly seen anything of Francois Purvis, who was the dominant rider, certainly the dominant male rider in the World Championships a year ago. He's been absolutely nowhere. Gregory Bourget was well beaten in straight rides by Glaetzer. He finished 5th because he won the minor final, but of course most riders not too fussed about that if they don't get through. He was well beaten, Bourget, and Quentin Lafargue as well, who got a medal last year. He hasn't featured, so real issues for the French heading into Rio.
Well, we'll watch out for the story behind that one. But, it was a surprise here in London. Dmitriev's, Zielinski, I should say, is going to have to do something special here. Kenny intimidating him, just holding him up, you know, just overlapping that back wheel, because he knows that way he can't dive down underneath him. He's got to come over the top. Real skill this to ride around a cycle track looking backwards, and we just take it for granted because they make it look so natural, but it's hard to do that.
The rubbernecked Jason Kenny there, it's like his head's on a swivel. He can look almost directly behind. A very flexible neck, and as you can see, not taking his eye off the pole, he's trying to go around the outside, but Jason Kenny pinning him up towards the fence at the top for as long as possible as they take the bell, and now it's a full-on sprint between the pair of them, and Zielinski's going to have to go the long way round, and I'm not convinced he's got the legs to do it. Jason Kenny from the front, leading up the finishing straight, and that was a dominant ride from the Olympic champion.
Yeah, another fast time, 10.1. That was the experience really showing through. He totally dominated that race, didn't he? Decided when the sprint was going to start, how fast, and timed it beautifully, just diving down with 2 bends to go, and there was nothing that he could do.
Well, Jason Kenny dominating that first match-up in the semi-final. And Zielinski, as you can see, left chasing and chasing in vain. Jason Kenny continues to look really sharp. He's 1 win away from racing for the world title. And of course, he was the world champion once before when Gregory Bourget was stripped of the title, but he'd really love to win the world crown on the boards tonight. So so far so good then, Claire. Good start to the evening for Jason Kenny.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Simon, and so much skill there, and the patience required as well to know, you know, when to say, right, we've got it now. You were never in doubt there, were you, Chris?
No, he had complete control there, and the key thing is not being impatient, getting the timing exactly right. And you saw Jason essentially pinning the Polish rider on his hip, so he had nowhere to go. He had to go run the outside. He couldn't dive up the inside of him. He didn't create a gap that he could rush onto his wheel. It was the perfect ride, a real controlling ride. You can see here, Zielinski, he has to go over the top or back off, and if you back off at that point, you've got no chance. So Jason just kept him exactly where he could see him. Zielinski had to go the long way round. By this point, Jason was really starting to pour on the power here, and it was game over with a lap to go.
So do you think he had some in hand there? Although
yes.
he went for it, he had to go for it long way out. He's not at 100% now.
No, obviously you want to be careful that you don't make any mistakes, but you don't want to waste any energy against your opponents. And he did a 10.1 there. I mean, that's not hanging around. That's a fast last 200 metres. He's got a lot in the tank. Glaetzer looked impressive too, but I think that, you know, as long as Jason can be stay sharp in the next round, he can win relatively comfortably, and then it's on for the gold medal.
What do they do now, and how long does he have to recover?
What you'll do now, you come straight into track centre, you have a drink, you'll tell yourself down, your coach will allow you to have a breather, and then we'll discuss the race, say what you did right, what you did wrong, how you could improve it. We'll discuss the other semi-final, even though you're not thinking about that at this stage. You'll discuss what Glaetzer might have done right or wrong. And it's really about trying to just recover and get yourself mentally over that race and ready for the next one.
Actually, talking of that other semi-final, Matthew Glaetzer won it, beating Denis Dimitriev, who knocked out Callum Skinner. Now, Callum Skinner, are you impressed with what he has achieved here?
Very impressed, yeah. His qualifying ride was exceptional. A 9.8 for 200 metres is incredible. He knocked out Gregory Bourget, you know, 4 times world sprint champion, a legend of the sport, really. And he was beaten here. But I think he should be very proud of his performance to make top 8 at the World Championships. There are 2 places at the Olympic Games available for Britain, or for all the nations, so he's staked his claim for that 2nd place.
Well, the riders are out there now for the women's points race, and youngster Emily Nelson is in this, going for Great Britain. She came here as the 5th rider for the team pursuit after Katie Archibald had an injury and couldn't ride. She's been fairly impressive in the World Cup so far this season, Sarah.
Yeah, Emily's really stepped up. She's a junior world team pursuit champion a couple of years ago, and she's been riding on the road and track ever since. And she's really come on in the last few weeks. The gears that the girls are pushing in the team pursuit are really quite big these days, and she's been keeping up with that really, really well. So it's exciting to see what she'll be able to do in the points race here.
So just 100 laps, just with 10 sprints, so it's 25k, and Simon Brotherson is going to take you through it with Chris Boardman.
But Claire, it was 160 laps yesterday in the men's points race, and it was worth it in the end because it was a fantastic race. And will we have a similar sort of finale tonight here in the women's points race? As Sarah was saying, Emily Nelson riding for Great Britain. This is her first senior world championship at 19 years of age, and what an experience this will be on the world stage here. Just rolling round on the opening lap. Just 1 or 2 riders to point out at the start of this race. Stephanie Pohl from Germany is the defending champion. Minami Uwano from Japan, the silver medalist from last year, she's here. And Kimberly Geist of the United States, who won the bronze a year ago, she's also riding. We've got Kasia Pawłowska from Poland, the 2-time scratch race world champion. Jarmila Makachewa from the Czech Republic. We saw her racing the other night and attacking on a couple of occasions. I'm sure she will again during this race at some point. She is a former world points race champion from 3 years ago in Minsk. And there she is on the front, as if on cue. Makachewa riding along the front in the blue. 1 or 2 of the others, and as we mentioned, Emily Nelson, a former world junior champion. Georgia Baker from Australia, another good young rider at 21, a 3-time world junior champion. Just some of the names here in this field.
Well, she's just sort of sneaked away there, rolled down to the bottom, rolling through, but thought, you know, I'm not going to swing up, I'll just keep going and see whether you come across to me. So inadvertently injected some pace into this race already, but they know her strengths are in the breakaways, so everybody's happy to just put some effort into pulling that one back.
But if you're one of the favourites, you can to a certain extent rely on her to do some of the work at some point, can't you? Because you know that she won't be able to help herself. She just will have to, because that's how she is.
She likes the race when it's hard and really grippy and there's lots of attacking and everybody's just nailed to the floor. That's the kind of race that she likes. She doesn't like it when it's slow, rolls around the top and lots of sprints.
So the early laps here, the race just settling down. Had a brief look at Emily Nelson there up near the railings of the top of the track at the moment, towards the front, having a little look on the inside. And Caroline Ryan in the green of Ireland, momentarily coming to the front. Now, she won the bronze medal in the points race at the World Championships when they were held in Australia in 2012. It was a very significant medal because it was the first one for Ireland in a senior track World Championships for over 100 years, since Harry Reynolds took a gold medal in 1896. And Caroline Ryan in this field again this evening.
4 laps to go this time as they come around for the next sprint, or the first sprint I should say, opening one, and everybody seems to be happy to wait until that moment to start the race proper.
Riding along on the inside in the red and yellow, number 18, Irene Zubillaga of Spain. Caroline Ryan at the front. Stephanie Pohl, the defending world champion from Germany, in the white with the black shorts. Australia represented by Georgia Baker, whom I mentioned at the start, 21-year-old Tasmanian. This first senior world championships, a bit like Emily Nelson of Great Britain. And for France there in the navy blue, Elise Delzenne, European silver medalist in the points race last year. Kimberly Geist from the United States leading the way at the moment. She was on the podium a year ago in Paris. And now you can just see the pace beginning to inch up now. A couple of laps to go to the sprint, the first one.
2 laps to go, they'll really start to wind it up. An advantage for the endurance riders to be, well, they can take it, they can go from the front really and keep control of the race, which is exactly what the American is trying to do now, just waiting, looking over her shoulder. She'll accelerate down the back straight. I don't think it's going to be enough, but I think she'll be in the points here.
Marlies Mejia there from Cuba going towards the front. Pawłowska of Poland in the red and white in second place. So it's Cuba, Poland, Canada, and then a tough battle between the American rider Kimberly Geist and also Cecchini of Italy, Elena Cecchini, just getting involved at the last moment. We'll wait for confirmation on that final point there. So Sierra of Cuba taking the 5 points, Pawłowska 3, Glaser 2, and Geist 1 for America. Meanwhile, while the women's points race is going on, Jason Kenny there just warming down, keeping nice and loose. And there sitting down in the pen is Mark Cavendish in 5th place in the men's Omnium. He has 1 race to come, which we will be covering live during our broadcast this evening. The points race bringing that to a conclusion. Meanwhile, in the women's points race final here, Stephanie Pohl from Germany starts to stretch her legs for the first time.
Caroline Ryan very much wants to get herself into a breakaway. She too likes an attacking race. We'll expect a lot from her. Looks in good shape. Saw her briefly in the pits earlier today. She's sort of making this event her own, really, hasn't she? A courageous rider who likes to get stuck in.
Trebaita of Lithuania riding off the front at the moment. There she is. Has a little bit of daylight. Caroline Ryan riding up the track, and Australia finding themselves momentarily at the front, leading the chase.
Georgia Baker, be interesting to see what she can do in this race. She's been monitoring things at the front up to now.
And Emily Nelson on the front for the first time. That's our leader on the track. 4 laps to go to the next sprint. They're being chased by Makacheva from the Czech Republic.
Well, it was inevitable, really, and this is exactly what she wanted. Somebody to go out there, some company. She's just got to bridge that gap first, though. But that will be a good working pair. And they'll have to get back on terms soon. 3 laps till the next sprint. Some hesitation behind, which might be the give them the leeway that they need.
Makacheva will be with Trebaita any moment now. She has joined her there, as you can see. And there's an indication of the gap that is starting to open up from the front of the race. Elena Cecchini from Italy leads the chase. There she is with Arlenis Sierra of Cuba on her wheel.
Well, they're not quite sure what to do, are they? They're sort of sitting just off the front, sort of semi-chasing, semi-looking behind. And while they're hesitating, the points are going to go to this front two.
Well, Makacheva laying down an early marker, perhaps in her bid to reclaim a world title that she won 3 years ago. Such an animator of races like this, never just turns up and follows the wheels, always has to get involved at the front end of the race, and here she is collecting the points. All 5 points go to the Czech rider. 5 points Czech Republic, 3 for Lithuania. And Emily Nelson getting a point for Great Britain, just behind Baker of Australia.
She's ridden these opening laps very cannily, actually. She's been rolling through, but only doing maybe 20-metre turns. Is nice and tight on the wheels, staying in the shelter, waiting for an opportunity. So riding with good tactical sense here.
She got a 3rd place in the World Cup in Hong Kong just a few weeks ago as well. So Makacheva leads with 5 points, joint 1st place with Sierra of Cuba. Pavlovska and Trebaita both have 3, Baker and Glaser on 2, Geist and Nelson joint 7th on 1. There's confirmation at the top of the leaderboard.
Makacheva wisely decided to call it a day now. Hard fought for those last points were, but that's the way that she gains her advantages. Not great in the sprint, but a tenacious rider.
Meanwhile, Gulnaz Badikova of Russia leads down the back straight. Former European team pursuit gold medalist, just 21 years of age, the Russian rider. Doesn't look as if she's going full gas off the front. There's Emily Nelson going across your screen there on the front of the main pack.
But riding cleverly, as you say, that ride in Hong Kong, who got at the berth in this race here, but riding really cleverly, just those short turns, staying to the front, just rolling through, staying present, a watchful eye. I wouldn't be surprised if she manages to infiltrate a breakaway. She's watching all the right riders, staying close enough to be able to react. Machkova's doing a bit of chasing there. Can't stand to see somebody else up the road.
Jasmine Glaser on the inside for Canada. Glaser, who won a silver medal last night here in these championships in the team pursuit final against the United States, who really were the class act in the race for the gold medal in the end. A superb ride from the USA to get into that final. Caroline Ryan now, we can't see her at the moment, we will shortly, is starting to lead the chase. There she is, just accelerating, and she has some willing support, this time from Trebaita and from Sierra of Cuba, who's been quite active in the early going. And then for the first time we see Hanna Solovey from Ukraine there on the front. Now Solovey, a former world silver medalist in the road time trial, that was in Ponferrada a couple of years ago.
Well, the pace is starting to pick up now, so the Russian might not even stay out there long enough to get these points. It's amazing how much distance they can eat up when they want to, but they've eased again.
She has a deceptive style, doesn't she, Chris Badikova? She doesn't look as if she's particularly hammering along and pedalling terribly hard. She looks as if she's just drifting around the track, but clearly she's not. Very sort of steady, relaxed looking style on the bike. The chase is on behind, and Pawłowska from Poland leads that chase. She's being closed down. Stephanie Pohl from Germany is looking to get on the board for the first time. She might get the 1 point as over the line comes Badikova, and Pawłowska takes the 3 points. Badikova, Pawłowska, Savenka of Belarus getting a couple of points there, and Stephanie Pohl, the defending champion, on the board with 1. Emily Nelson in joint 9th place. She too has 1 point. There's confirmation of the result of sprint 3 of 10. And it was worth Badikova's while to stay out for a few laps there. She hoovered up the points that she was looking for altogether on the track.
Well, a third of the race done. I think we'll start to see some attacking soon. Caroline Ryan, 2/3 of the way back on the inside, will certainly be looking for an opportunity.
Pawłowska certainly, Chris, is going to be a threat in this race, and she leads at the moment, but as I mentioned before, she's a 2-time scratch race world champion. She's got a medal in each of the last 3 years in that, and she's also the current European points race champion, so, and a very wily and canny and experienced track rider. There's Hanna Solovey from Ukraine.
Well open this race at the moment. The points very well spread around. Only one rider with more than 5 points.
That's Cecchini from Italy in the middle of your picture in the blue. She's one of those who races on the road, the Italian national champion on the road, as Caroline Ryan now shows her face at the front once again. And Caroline Ryan has been quite assertive at the front end of the pack in the opening third of the race. And again, Sierra is near the front there in the red and blue of Cuba. And Pavlovska just watching the moves. Solovey staying near the front too.
Not really been a hard enough race yet for Ryan. She's the one who normally attacks when the going gets tough. And everyone takes a breather and she nips off. But at the moment, it's a lot of fresh legs. She's got a reputation now for being good at breaking away.
And Trebaita in the yellow of Lithuania. Trebaita making a move. She was up by the railings and now flying down on the inside of the track with Makacheva leading the chase. She's had some support as well there from Pavlendova.
Hard way to get your points this 3 laps to go as they come round this time. It's a long way on your own. They're not hanging about behind. She's already got 3 on the board, so a win here would take her into a medal position. They've swung up behind, so it looks like she's going to get that opportunity coming around with 2 laps to go.
And of course, depending on who gets the points behind her, it could actually put her into the lead. But a long way to go, as you can see. Still 62 laps remaining, and the chase starts behind now, and it is led by Ina Savenka from Belarus. She has Baker of Australia right behind her. Solovey there, number 6 from Ukraine.
Well, she might just hang on here.
Tell you what, it's really hurting for Trebaita, hanging on, and she may struggle to stay at the front. By the time they get to the line, she's really having to dig in. Desperate to collect those 5 points, and she may just do it now. Yes, she will. Trebaita collects the points, being closed down rapidly there by Baker from Australia, and going through on the inside there, Lotte Kopecky from Belgium, who was second in the scratch race in Cali in the World Cup this past winter, and Kopecky having a little go, and Delzen of France immediately senses the danger.
That's exactly the right time to go. All the front runners, all the big names have just been going for the points, and to attack immediately is the right way to do it. Might not happen this time. It's actually Nelson who's doing a big chunk of the work to pull them back, but this is the kind of move that tends to succeed. It's good working for. They've only got 20 meters, but if they can get this together, it'll only take 1 or 2 people to swing up behind.
Well, those 4 at the front at the moment: Kopecky, Cecchini, Delzen and Sierra, but it was a lead which, as you can see, didn't last for long. And Caroline Ryan now again comes to the front. As soon as the join is made, she senses that's the time to get her skates on and just test everyone's legs. Cecchini closing it down very rapidly there, and also the rider from Japan getting involved towards the front of the race.
Well, Ryan just missing the urgency, sir. That's a good move. They came through past her with really good pace. She really needed to get on the wheel, and she just didn't react fast enough there. That would have been a good working 3.
That's Uwano from Japan, who won the silver medal a year ago. Cecchini of Italy following her. Ryan is 3rd on the track. There she is.
Chased by Makacheva.
Yeah, of course. A little gap back to Sierra of Colombia. Having a look to see where Emily Nelson is. She's about 1/3 of the way back in the main pack, coming towards the front of that group there in the middle of your picture.
Well, Ryan's fought hard, but she's just about got herself back on terms, but it's cost a lot of energy. It's going to be a while before they get to recover. I don't know whether they'll be given that opportunity. Baker of Australia has really spotted the danger, a bit nervous.
Well, look at Stephanie Polgo there on the front there in the white and black of Germany, the world champion, and she's got some support here from Badikova of Russia.
Pole blew it apart there. She really did some damage to the peloton of such an acceleration.
Just under 3 laps to the next sprint. Makacheva suddenly looking around and finding herself at the front. Uwano now just looking and checking to see who is there, and Emily Nelson is in the first half dozen on the track there, right in the middle.
This is the perfect moment for a counter. There's been 2 strong surges now. Everybody's starting to get a bit tired. This is when the cracks appear.
And this is the first time we've seen Pang Yao of Hong Kong coming towards the front. So Pang Yao, Delzen now going through on the inside with Emily Nelson there. So it's Delzen, Nelson, Cecchini, Pole and Pang. So this is a good little group there on the sprint lap, and Emily Nelson's having a go here for Great Britain, and the crowd responding to that. And we can hear the Velodrome roar in London for the first time in a little while in this points race, and Emily Nelson collects the points for Great Britain at the halfway mark in this race. And Emily Nelson, with those 5 points, is now in joint second position. Trebajta leads on 8 points. Nelson is with Pawłowska on 6. Makacheva, Badikova, Baker, Sierra all on 5. It's tight at the top, but Nelson's in the thick of it.
Well, it's Pole that spotted the opportunity and injected some speed to try and keep this group going. There's a lot of riders behind that have almost bridged the gap, but it was a great opportunity to try and drag the group, keep it riding through. But I'm not sure it's going to happen. They're not quite getting enough distance. But Pole knows this is a great opportunity at half distance to try to gain a lap, but it doesn't look like it's going to be at the moment. Great tactical riding by Nelson, though. She's been just watching things, chipped away, got a point early on, and suddenly she's in a medal position. In fact, it's been corrected, the points. She's actually leading this race now on countback on equal points. So Nelson having a fantastic ride at the moment.
The computer just readjusting itself in the last 30 seconds or so, and there we are. There's the official standings after 5 of the 10 sprints. So an excellent ride up to now from 19-year-old Emily Nelson on her World Championship debut. Cecchini on the front for Italy. Pawłowska is right there with her. Delzen from France trying to get on the back. Kimberly Geist there, Pole, and Uwano going through in quick succession. Makacheva not far away. Sierra sticking to Makacheva's wheel, and it's Uwano from Japan who leads the way. Still just 24 years of age. We're with well, we're just off the back of Hannah Solovey's bike now, as we look back at Pang Yao from Hong Kong. It looks as if she's feeling the pace a little bit, right towards the back of the main pack. Pawłowska there from Poland.
Well, they're motoring at the moment. They're coming back around. They'll have 3 points as they come, 3 laps rather, as they come across the line until the next sprint. So they're starting to position themselves already. Quick reshuffle. Emily Nelson halfway back down at the bottom. I think she's going to find herself in good shape as they come round with 2 to go.
Calm before the storm, really, of the next sprint, isn't it, with these riders? And Ryan now just ups the pace. Closed down by Pawłowska. Sierra's there. Solovey as well, 4th in line at the moment. The navy blue is Delzen, and we're just looking back from Solovey's bike, and that'll be back towards Emily Nelson there, Great Britain, with the stripes on her sleeve.
She's well placed actually to maybe get a cut point or 2, but she's boxed in at the moment. But she's decided she's having a go. She's trying to find her way through.
Well, she's got the legs to get away from Solovey. She's going to try and go around the outside of Elise Delzen up towards the line. Sierra, Glaser, Pawłowska, and Nelson scores a point for Great Britain.
Well, we've already seen 1 points race decided on the final sprint. Surely we couldn't see that again.
And now it causes a change at the top of the leaderboard, despite scoring a point. Sierra of Cuba now is the new leader on 10 points as a result of collecting 5 there. Pawłowska of Poland is on 8 in the silver medal position. Emily Nelson in the bronze medal position on 7. And she's got a 2-point cushion over Makacheva, Badikova, Baker and Glaser. So as you can sense, it's very, very tight at the top of the leaderboard.
Makacheva and Baker going from the bottom of the track. Pole of Germany was at the top monitoring things. There seems to be a lot of willingness to mark other riders, but not the impetus to get out there and try to make a breakaway, to work together, to form an alliance, to try and take that lap.
We're watching the Australian there, Georgia Baker. That's not the front of the race. There's the leader in the red over on the far side, Pang Yao from Hong Kong, their national time trial champion last year. Baker having a look behind. She's caught in no man's land at the moment between the leader, but Cecchini is closing the gap on the Australian. And maybe the Australian's just waiting for a little bit of help and realising that she was going to be expending energy that she could perhaps best save for a later point in the race, which she's decided to do.
Well, she seems to have been looking for an opportunity, but it hasn't come along, and there's only 35 laps left in this race now, so she's going to have to do something drastic soon if she wants to get herself a shot at that world title.
Still all to play for, though, in the women's points race here in these World Track Championships in London on the penultimate day of competition. it's a great place to be at the front, but it must feel like quite a lonely place for Pan Yao of Hong Kong at the moment.
Well, Glaser wants to give her some company of Canada, and she's making quite a fist of it as well. They are going around the bottom, but she's pulling away here.
I don't get the impression that the rider from Hong Kong is going to be getting the next set of 5 points on the line.
Emily Nelson's spotted the move as well, so they're all sort of single file at the moment. A bit of daylight between them, but it is starting to fracture, and Nelson has got herself into a great position here.
So Pan Yao desisting, Glaser leads the way, Sierra second place, Geis third, fourth is Nelson, 5 Solovey, 6 Cecchini, and then following her, Savenka of Belarus and the world champion Stephanie Pohl of Germany. But Emily Nelson again at the sharp end of the race here.
Well, 2 laps to go. She's in a good position to take some more points if she's got the legs for it.
Glaser again accelerates. Pawłowska straight on her wheel. Cecchini quick to respond and make sure the move doesn't go anywhere. As they take the bell, the next set of points on the line, and Emily Nelson is still in a position where if she's got a sprint, she might be able to collect a point or two. Pawłowska going around the outside, taking the lead ahead of Glaser, and she's got Savenka of Belarus right on her wheel. Glaser in third, Cecchini in 4. Nelson's going to be just outside the points this time.
She would have had to work hard just to get a single point on the board. Wisely stayed. Pohl attacking on the inside.
Just while we watch that replay of them coming across the line, Stephanie Pohl goes along the inside, and here she is leading the way. Stephanie Pohl, swift acceleration. Glaser tries to go with her. Cecchini as well.
Glaser's suddenly come alive in this race, and she wants to ride aggressively for this last 30 laps, looking for opportunities all the time. Pohl too has been looking for opportunities, decided to make her own, and she's got some distance now.
Lise Delgen will lead the chase behind the German rider and followed by Baker of Australia. Maybe she senses this could be an opportunity to try and get in a move, and Baker very much involved. And also from Spain there in the red and yellow, Irene Uzabiaga, a bronze medalist in the European Championships last year in the elimination race. So Spain getting involved for the first time. Minami Uwano of Japan is up there too. So it's Pohl, the Spanish rider Uzabiaga, Uwano of Japan, Baker of Australia, Delgen of France.
And this could be the move of the race. It's certainly the most dangerous, and Emily Nelson spotted it and is trying to up the pace of the group to try and bring it back. But that's a strong 5 riders there, and they're working well together. They've got the length of a straight advantage to sort themselves out. This could be the most dangerous, well, it is the most dangerous move of the race. It could succeed.
But there is a chase, and Pawłowska senses that danger. Pawłowska looking to get back into things. You know, she's actually at the front of the race at the moment in terms of the hunt for the medals. So Pawłowska, who is leading the chase there, has got a lot of work to do, and this is a real threat to her position. She is the leader at the moment of this race overall, but she's in the second group.
Well, oddly, none of them are fully committing to this. They're all doing very short 20-metre turns, and that's not the way to get this group away. You work so hard to get into it. They really should have committed to it, because behind they've sensed the opportunity. They're back to maybe 40 metres away, and it's not going to work, I don't think.
No, this is closing down. Makacheva getting involved, Pawłowska, Emily Nelson up towards the front, Badikova of Russia also in there as well, and Savenka of Belarus, Hanna Solovey, Cecchini, so many of them all strung out there in a line, still intent on collecting points to give themselves the opportunity of finishing on the podium here in this women's points race final with 21.5 laps to go. An attack here from Minami Uwano from Japan. And Georgia Baker from Australia leads the chase. Now they take the bell. There'll be points on the line next time round. The world champion Stephanie Pohl in third, and fourth on the track is Emily Nelson of Great Britain, who's trying to close the gap there to Stephanie Pohl as they head down the back straight. And they're closing down on Uwano, the Japanese rider. Baker coming forward now. Baker takes it. Pohl second, Uwano third, and Emily Nelson gets a point for Great Britain.
She's just chipping away, and again we've got a strong group off the front. Have they got anything left to push on here? Well, Emily Nelson certainly wants to.
Well, she's still in contention here, Chris, because Pawłowska leads. Baker and Sierra, Australia and Cuba, on 10 points each, joint second at the moment, and Nelson fourth, just 2 points outside the medals.
Well, everybody looks completely gassed now. Everybody on the track, the two at the front saying, you know, I haven't got anything to give, but the people behind you are looking tired too. If you dig deep, you might find that you can exploit the fact that everybody's worked so hard for the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Nelson there looked as if she was rather hoping that Stephanie Pohl fancied going for it, but the pair of them just a ride up towards the top of the track. And on the inside there, the rider from Belarus, Savenka, as Kopecky from Belgium now just ups the pace, and Solovey of Ukraine right on her wheel.
Well, good timing from those two, but again, there seems to be enough reserves within the peloton to chase it down. And we've only got 2 sprints left in this race now, and it looks like it's getting more and more difficult for anybody to take a lap.
Nelson just slipping back a little bit as the race splits up momentarily. They should be able to get back into that main chase group, but there is just starting to fracture a little the field.
She pushed into the red there, just testing the water. After that's going for the sprint and then pushing on after it to see if she could force a breakaway. So a little bit on the back foot now, but I think this whole peloton's going to come back together once again.
We still have 4 laps to go to the next sprint. We're looking back at Elise Delzenne of France, former national road race champion. And Kopecky just moves up the track. Pawlowska in the middle.
Pawlowska is getting closer and closer to that gold and knows that she is in the driving seat with a 3-point lead. She has to just police things, which is exactly what she's doing. She's not getting involved in going for points now. Now she has to ride defensively, save everything she's got to stop anybody getting away.
Caroline Ryan from Ireland getting involved in this little group at the front. It's a dangerous one, should it gain some time, because Makacheva and Pawlowska are there, and the others have sensed that. So Jasmine Glaser from Canada in the predominantly light blue jersey with red, black and white on it, has led the chase and closed it down straight away. So on the front is Pan Yao of Hong Kong, Pawlowska second in line. There's Glaser in third there from Canada, Makacheva, Sierra of Cuba, Kopecky there, Stephanie Pohl as well, and Emily Nelson is really puffing and blowing at the back of the pack at the moment, and she's only got 1 rider behind her on the track, so at the moment she's just hanging on as best she possibly can. Currently 4th overall, but Nelson losing ground all the time as Glaser takes the points from Sierra, Pawlowska third, Stephanie Pohl in 4th. So Canada, Cuba, Poland and Germany taking those points. Pawlowska leads by 2 points from Sierra of Cuba, Glaser third for Canada, Baker of Australia in 4th, Nelson down to 5th.
Well, Glaser with that big effort got herself onto the podium, as you've just said. She looks stronger and stronger as they get into the closing stages of this race. In fact, just 9 laps remaining, 8.5 before they contest that final sprint.
Well, Pawlowska, as you would expect, policing matters at the front of the field now. She has an opportunity of becoming the world champion, or a world champion, for the 3rd time, twice previously in the scratch race. Can she add a points race title as Kimberly Geist from the United States, who was on the podium a year ago, now hits the front. Cecchini chases her down, Solovey's there, Sierra and Pohl.
Pawlowska wisely, you see, this is where experience comes in. She's not going to chase down the American because she's not a threat on points. She's going to leave that for the riders in 2nd and 3rd positions, those in 4th, 5th trying to get themselves onto the podium, so she's going to use everybody else. It's okay for her, for riders to go up the road and mop up those valuable points.
Yeah, you need to keep your wits about you, don't you, in races like this, and Kimberly Geist only has 1 point on the board. So Geist on the front, Cecchini in 2nd place there in the blue on the far side, and the chase being led by Australia and Georgia Baker, and Emily Nelson has found a 2nd wind, or maybe a 3rd or 4th perhaps in a race like this, but she's just regrouped. She was really looked as though she was really suffering a lap or 2 ago, but she's regrouped and she's back in it again now. Baker, by the way, is Nelson is 5th on 8 points, so she is 4 points behind Glaser of Canada, who is in the bronze position.
Well, she need a bit of luck, but she should still get herself into a medal position here, and I'm sure she knows that as they go into the final kilometre. Just over a minute of racing left here.
Kimberly Geist there on her own at the front, almost half a lap of those ahead of those riders there. Caroline Ryan from Ireland, Sierra from Cuba in the red and blue, Baker from Australia on the inside, Emily Nelson clearly up at the front there, was third in line as Glaser now positions herself, and they bunch up behind the Canadian, and there's a crash, and Owano, the Japanese rider, is down, and so is Caroline Ryan. Two riders falling heavily there in the steepest part of the banking. Kimberly Geist just moves away from one of those who has fallen as the race continues.
Well, we'll come back to that crash in a moment. Makacheva is the one to start the charge.
And with the race, with less than a lap to go now for the American rider Kimberly Geist, Makacheva leads the chase. Jasmine Glaser is right on her wheel. Baker of Australia is in third place in that sprint. Geist now coming up towards the line for the United States. There she is, crossing the line. Kimberly Geist, but here's the sprint up towards the line. Baker from Australia takes it. Glaser is third, and fourth was Sierra from Cuba. At the dramatic end of that women's points race, with the heavy fall for a couple of riders, including Caroline Ryan from Ireland. Let's hope that they are both okay. Here is the sprint. Geist had already crossed the line. Australia, Canada and Cuba getting the other points there. And there is your winner. Kasia Pawłowska from Poland is the new world champion in the women's points race. A very canny ride from her.
It certainly was. It was quite a negative race, a lot of chasing down, nobody really wanting to commit to making a move, everybody looking backwards rather than forwards. It made it very, very close though, 15, 14, 14, 13. So, you know, just a couple of points separating the top four. Caroline Ryan, though, we want to see her stand up. She went down very hard. We see on the crash.
Yeah, it was Owano,
really
and it was Elise Delzenne of France as well. And the good news is that Delzenne of France is walking along there. Look at that. Incredible pictures from the onboard cameras. But the good news is that we can see on the far side of the track that the French rider is walking unaided back towards the track centre. Unfortunately, I think Caroline Ryan will require a stretcher, and we just saw a shot of Owano. What a difference a year makes for her. She was the silver medalist a year ago, but she is walking very slowly with some help, but at least she's back on her feet. But celebrations for Poland. They have a world champion in Pawłowska. She's a world champion for the third time in her career. And Pawłowska taking it by a point from Glaser of Canada. 15 points to 14. Also on 14 points, Olenis Sierra of Cuba. Great ride from the Cuban. She was always in the thick of it. And Baker from Australia, who gave it everything. She was second over the line in that final sprint, but it wasn't quite enough to get her on the podium. This is her first World Championship. She finished just a point outside the medals. And Emily Nelson, Chris, fifth on her debut in the Senior World Championship.
And she rode extremely well as well. She did ride very, very cleverly, used a lot of tactical sense, made some efforts, but knew when to hold back, when to give it up, and positioned herself well in the bunch. So well deserving of that place, I think. She was close to a podium position. It could have gone her way. A little bit quiet in the velodrome now as
well, clearly there is a great deal of concern because we have an athlete on the ground, and it's Caroline Ryan from Ireland, who has fallen very, very heavily in the latter stages.
The wheel.
Yeah, and she's still on the ground, and we hope that's purely a precautionary measure. The medical teams are attending to her at the moment. She's still lying down. The stretcher is there, and hopefully she's in good hands. And let's go down now to Jill Douglas, who's with Emily Nelson, who can reflect on her debut in the World Championships and on a 5th place.
Well, Emily, a 5th place at your first Senior World Championships. You're mixing it up there, leading the race at the halfway stage. Just take us through the experience.
Oh, well, it's been incredible. Like, the crowd are absolutely amazing. Every time I went for something, I had everybody behind me, and that really, really helps. You know, it just gives you that extra push.
And you really animated this race as well. You took hold of it, and you were so close to getting onto that podium.
Oh, I know, like, obviously I'm gutted that I didn't medal, but I'm so happy with 5th. Like, I think I'm happy with how I rode. Yeah, there's some really good riders in there, and I was up there with them, so I'm so happy with that.
You take enormous confidence from this. Of course, you've already had a medal at a World Cup event, but you've taken that step up now and training down in Newport. What's the plan for you? You've got such a competitive endurance team now amongst the women.
I'm not sure really. I'm still finding my feet a little bit, so this will give me massive confidence. And yeah, I'm not sure.
Sure, we're going to see a lot more of you in the years to come. Thank you very much indeed. Well done today.
Thanks.
Well done.
What a performance from Emily Nelson, and well done her for steering clear of the crash. Caroline Ryan is now being helped at the moment by medics and is going to be taken off on a stretcher, but it was terrifying. It happened right next to us, Chris.
Yeah, it's always a hazard, always a risk in the points race or the bunch races. A touch of wheels, you can see there she went down really badly, quite awkwardly, and Caroline Ryan there hitting her head and twisting her neck. I think that's hopefully, as they said, a precautionary measure to get her on the stretcher.
Oh, I mean, completely flipped over the bike did, didn't it?
And how did the eventual gold medalist stay out of that? Because she was directly next to the Japanese rider when it happened. But yeah, a complete somersault there. Caroline Ryan had no chance to get out of the way.
How do you assess that performance from Emily Nelson to finish 5th in a race of that quality?
I think she should be very proud of herself. I think for her debut performance, that was excellent. She wasn't expected to medal, but she was very close, and she got stuck in. She didn't just follow wheels, she was animating during the race, and I thought it was a great performance.
The Polish coach was being congratulated with laps to go because it was clear that Pawlowska was going to hang on and going to win it, Sarah. I actually found it fascinating watching the coaches as well as watching the race.
Yeah, the coaches are really interesting. Some of them are kind of like really animated and pushing them up the track. Some of them look really, really annoyed. Some of them are just doing little hand signals, and some of them are leaping around like their life depends on it. So, yeah, it is a fascinating. You definitely need the coach cam in there.
Exactly, I love it. They look so in pain, don't they? They look as if they're feeling every moment of it. Does it actually help you?
Of course, it has to help. I think for me personally, having had, you develop a bond with your coach, and they live every pedal rev with you. And when you win, they're over the moon. When you lose, they're gutted for you too.
This delay is obviously going to continue, Caroline Ryan. So let me ask you about, and we hope, and she is being attended to by a very strong medical crew at the moment, who are putting her onto a stretcher. She has moved her head, she has moved her legs as well. I've seen, and I can see her feet moving as well for anyone who knows not watching. Jason Kenny now obviously has got a slight delay before the men's sprint semi-finals continue. We mentioned it earlier about how good he is on the big occasion. Tell me more about Jason Kenny and the type of guy he is.
Well, Jason is, he flatlines. He doesn't get overly excited about anything. He doesn't let himself get too overawed by anything. He sort of just strolls through everything, very, very cool, very calm. And that's a massive benefit when you come to a big event, when you can become over anxious or be distracted or just, get overawed by the occasion, and he never does. And when it comes to the really important races, as we've seen in Beijing and in London, he performed at his very best.
And he's so different in shape to you. I mean, we all, watching you as a sprint cyclist, we thought, they all look like you, but they don't. Jason is very different.
There's actually quite a variance in the sprinters in terms of a lot of them are, they're all more muscular than the endurance athletes, but you get some tall ones, short ones, and it's about your power to frontal area. That's the key thing. It's not so much power to weight, it's your power to frontal area. If you look at an athlete like Glaetzer, for example, he's very tall. He's about 6'2", 6'3". He has an extremely long back, and that allows him, it's very flexible too, it allows him to get into very low aerodynamic position, unlike any athlete I've seen of his size. So he's very aero and very powerful. Jason, he's very tucked, he's very small, but he can also produce 2,200, 2,300 watts for peak power, and he's a very, very smooth pedaling style too, so he can sustain that for a lap and a half.
Well, let's hear the thoughts of Jason Kenny before these championships started.
How close are you to where you really want to be in your sport?
Well, I want to be the best, I want to be the fastest, but I'm not, so I'm miles away from where I want to be. But I just, I keep trying, I keep doing everything I can to get better, and hopefully I'll get some results.
That's all you can do, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's no point in stressing about it. At the end of the day, I do my best, and I do my best every day, and try and make the most of the time. In sport, there's never enough time. You always wish there was another week or another month. You never feel ready. So, I've learned to kind of accept that now, and just kind of make the most of every day.
Jason Kenny there, I see what you mean about him being very... keeps it.
Yes, he doesn't get overexcited about anything, but he's a good friend of mine, and we've been very close over the years. We've competed against each other, competed with each other, but I think he was being quite modest there. His form leading into these championships, from what I've been hearing from the coaches and from him, has been ramping up, and his qualification time of 9.76. That's a fraction outside of the Olympic record. So he really is on the form of his life at the moment, and I fully expect him to be in the final against Glaetzer, assuming Glaetzer gets through too.
We had applause from the crowd as the medical team took Caroline Ryan into the centre, and obviously they'll go right under the velodrome. She is conscious. She appears to have cut her face, possibly on her visor, but she is smiling. She is conscious, and hopefully all will be well, because that was a very nasty incident. Sarah, you all right? Do you want some water? Let's just give Sarah a bottle of water. Thank you very much. So men's sprint semi-final, race 2 coming up now. Jason Kenny, we saw obviously going out in front in that first semi-final. Does that mean in the second semi-final is he behind?
Yes. Yep. What happens is you draw for the first race, and you draw either 1 or 2, and that determines your start position. Second race, it's reversed. So the key thing is, if you're in the second wheel, you want to create some space. You want to give yourself some room to manoeuvre, to ideally accelerate onto the rider in front, give yourself momentum to try and pass them. They won't want to let you do that, therefore they're going to try and keep you close. So you can do that by various methods. You can gain height by going up the track and gain potential energy. Or there is a tactic which happens once in a blue moon, where the rider at the front will just attack from the start. They'll just go for a long one. Often people ask, why do you not just attack from the start? The reason is that if the second rider gets in behind you, he saves 30% of his energy and will just sit and wait until the last 100 metres and ride past you.
And usually what happens is, when you think you've got the race won, you sit up, don't you?
Are you alluding to a certain race which happened to me, or?
It can sometimes.
Oh, Claire, I told you this in confidence. It was like a confession.
Confidence. Everyone saw it.
Yeah. What you're discussing is a race that happened to me in 2010 at the European Championships. I was the fastest qualifier up against the slowest rider in the first round, and I basically looked behind me with half a lap to go, and the gap was so big that I thought, oh, he's sat up. So I sat up too. Little did I know he was still going flat out, and he caught me on the line, and I got knocked out of the European Championships in the first round. No repechage, nothing. Gutted.
I'm really sorry that you had to go through that again. Terrible now.
Yeah,
so Matthew Glaetzer against Denis Dimitriev will be our first semi-final, followed by Jason Kenny against Damian Zielinski. Matthew Glaetzer is 1 up, and Jason Kenny is 1 up. Here's Simon.
And Chris was lucky that didn't get a mention yesterday, actually, because Felix English was in a race, and I did have that in my notes, but the need didn't arise to mention it.
You couldn't let that story go. You could not bring that one up.
And every time Felix English races, of course, it is actually there among the notes, unfortunately for Chris. Here we go then, the second race of potentially of 3, best of 3, semi-final in the men's sprint. Denis Dimitriev, the silver medalist a year ago, beaten by Gregory Bourget of France in the final in Paris. 2 silvers and a bronze in the World Championships in the sprint. And Matthew Glaetzer, who so far, along with Jason Kenny, has looked very, very impressive in this particular series of races.
Yeah, he was quick, and I think Dimitriev needs to sharpen up on the tactics as well. The race was dictated to him by Glaetzer.
Chris Hoy was saying that earlier, Dimitriev I think was pushed quite hard by Callum Skinner, wasn't he? Skinner won the second of their races, took it to 3.
Fantastic qualifying 5th in such a fast time as well, 9.8. That really was quite a ride by him. Beating Gregory Bourget is quite a scalp to get as well.
Well, as Dimitriev turns around, that's the view that he's got out there on the track.
It's like stalking the prey. As you can see, he's keeping the height there. He's trying to keep as much height as he can, because he's actually going faster. If he's staying the same distance away, he's probably going 2 k's an hour faster, which tells as soon as they get into the straight.
Glaetzer right up at the top of the track. They'll take the bell this time. Denis Dimitriev will lead out, and Glaetzer with a little bit of ground to make up here as they go into the back straight. But look at him go here as he closes that gap down. Now, has he got that extra little kick to take it past the Russian here as they come towards the line? Oh, it was desperately close between the pair of them. Photo finish between them. and to see whether Glaetzer has got it. I think Glaetzer has got it. It is a photo, but Glaetzer, I think, is through in straight rides. Let's get the confirmation here. Yes, he's going to get it. And Glaetzer, well, he got it by about a third of a wheel there.
That's a bit of a surprise from Dmitriev. It looked like Glaetzer had played it perfectly, he'd given himself some distance, as Chris was describing earlier. He kept his height, and it looked like he timed it beautifully. But Dmitriev just turned it up and kept some from the home straight. So he nearly pulled a surprise there.
Matthew Glaetzer then from Australia, the 23-year-old, is guaranteed at least a silver medal. He's through to the final. He will race for gold, but will it be against Jason Kenny of Great Britain? But it was what a fantastic shot there as Glaetzer was closing in on his prey.
Look how low he gets at the front. Glaetzer just folds his body in half.
Folds his body in half, and he breaks his bike in half as well. He's so powerful. There we are. That's the margin of victory over the Russian rider.
So that's what 1/100th of a second looks like.
And it's just a perfect illustration there of something that Chris Hoy was talking about just then, about the fact that he's got such a long back, but he's very, very flexible, meaning that he can get a really good aerodynamic position. Let's concentrate now on the second of the semi-finals. Jason Kenny there. Frankly, dominated the first matchup, didn't he, against Zielinski, who's a very experienced rider from Poland.
Well, it's hard to know what Zielinski can do here, actually. Jason Kenny hasn't put a foot wrong in this competition so far. His interview showing he's so incredibly laid back, but he's certainly not once he gets on his bike.
Well, he said in that interview, I want to be the best, I want to be the fastest, and I'm not. And I'm a million miles away from where I want to be.
Not a million miles away now, no. That's for sure.
No, he's closing in. And he's still very much in the hunt for what would be a second world sprint crown. He's also been the Keirin champion of the world as well, back in 2013 in Minsk. That was the last time he wore a rainbow jersey. And Damian Zielinski from Poland, leading on the first lap here. If Kenny wins this race, he will be through to face Glaetzer in a Great Britain-Australia matchup in the final, in the race for gold. The way they always build it up with the dramatic music in the background, the hush around the arena before the race really gets going.
Good shot there of what we were talking about, his diminutive stature. He gets really quite tucked up for a sprinter. Not panicking now, just leaving himself some room to work.
Zielinski just winding it up a little bit. Still a lap and a half to go here. He's trying to get that gear going early, the Polish rider. It's a long time to lead out the sprint as they take the bell. Zielinski's going for it. Jason Kenny not panicking, looking to close the gap as they go down the back straight, which he is doing almost with every revolution of the pedals. Has he got the speed to come round? And he has. There was nearly a coming together between the pair of them, but Jason Kenny wins. He times his effort to perfection, and Jason Kenny will race for gold in the men's match sprint.
Well, that was with ease, to be honest. He really did look in control there. Rode it nicely with a lot of confidence.
I have to say, this is the best we've seen from Jason Kenny, I think, for a long time.
Well, since the last Olympics, I think it's fair to say. So, perfect timing. You can see here where he didn't panic, just left himself room to race. And you have to judge how much more your opponent has to give in that back straight, which is exactly what he did. And he didn't look stressed at all there coming around the outside. Such an acceleration in that last... well, in the last quarter of a lap, the speed difference was enormous.
Well, that was very impressive, and both semi-finals in the men's sprint decided in straight rides, and Jason Kenny acknowledging the crowd as he looks back on a job well done so far, but the hardest part still to come, that matchup against Matthew Glaetzer. And one thing's for sure, Jason Kenny certainly isn't a million miles away now, Claire.
That was so exciting to watch, and he looked very impressive, didn't he, Chris?
He did. He did the perfect ride from the back there. Created some space, ran onto the wheel, and you could see how relaxed he was. He was passing him on the home straight as if he was, you know, barely out of breath.
We can certainly have another look at it when he made his move. And in fact, actually, I suppose you've got to give Zielinski credit. He had to go.
He had to commit, and it was a long way from the front as well. He was leading for quite a long time. Jason just didn't panic. He waited and waited. Had a nice gap. It's not too big. It's pretty much perfect. The closer you get to the rider in front, the more slipstream you get, so the more you accelerate onto the wheel and you get this slingshot effect, and that's the perfect illustration of that. Little bump there.
Wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, he was still within his rights because he was within the sprinters lane there, Zielinski. He just, Jason was trying to come past as close as he could to get as much benefit from the slipstream, and he just gave him a little nudge. But you could see Zielinski was still within the red line, so there was no foul play there.
What are the rules on that about how close you can come?
Once you've entered the last 200 metres, or once the sprint has begun, once you've gone inside the red line, you must stay there. You cannot come out. You might remember Vicky Pendleton in the Olympic Games against Anna Mears. She came out by a hair's breadth, and it was enough to be relegated. So once you're in, you have to stay in.
You were telling me that in training, Jason Kenny had made a decision to change the setup of his bike.
Yeah, it was I think a little bit by accident, a little bit out of nothing to lose, but apparently a matter of 2 or 3 weeks ago, on the last of 4 efforts in his training session, he took a massive step up in the gear size selection just for, well, there's nothing to lose. I'm not going that well today, I'll give it a go. And he used, I won't say what gear it was because his rivals might be watching, but a huge gear, and he went a lot quicker. And he used that in the time trial gear. Obviously it worked for him. You don't use the same size of gear in the match sprint situation to the qualifying. But certainly he is experimenting with bigger gears all the time. It's the way the event's going now.
He certainly has found form and found it at the right time, so he will be up against Matthew Glaetzer for the gold medal race in the men's sprint. Well, this is the medal ceremony for the women's points race, so I'll hand you back to Simon.
Well, then is Sierra from Cuba receiving her bronze medal, the 23-year-old who has already shown good form before these World Championships, and you can see how delighted she is to get on the podium for Cuba tonight. She finished 3rd overall in the Tour de San Luis on the road. She won a stage in that as well. And Canada with the silver medal tonight in the points race. Jasmine Glaetzer, 2 silvers in the space of 24 hours, and she stood there yesterday in exactly the same place, having been beaten by the United States in the final of the women's team pursuit.
I think one of those was a smile of joy and the other was of disappointment. She really tried to force it to happen, several strong attacks, but she couldn't find anybody to work with her. They all just wanted to be in the break and then were looking behind to see who was going to catch them, nobody to commit. So she was frustrated and trapped.
And the European champion in the points race is now the world champion as well. Polish rider Kasia Pawłowska.
But a very clever race. Switched to defensive riding in that last 20 laps and did it so well.
Well, it's the 3rd rainbow jersey of her career. Twice the world scratch race champion in Melbourne in 2012 and in Minsk a year later. She got a silver medal in Cali in the scratch race as well a couple of years back, but now back to gold, back on top of the podium. Still have the flowers to come, but it was a close run thing. Pawłowska beating Glaetzer of Canada by a single point at the end. Glaetzer just pipping Sierra on count back. They both had 14 points. And Baker of Australia in her first World Championship, very impressive. Unlucky not to get a medal, finishing a point outside on 13. And Emily Nelson from Great Britain as well, finishing on 8 points. She rode very well. She rode intelligently and competitively throughout the race.
She did. It was a good performance by her. She could have easily found herself on the podium if it panned out differently. She found some opportunities, sprinted well, positioned herself well, couldn't have asked for more.
And now the national anthem of Poland. Kasia Pawłowska, the points race world champion, and Poland, the 9th nation to win a gold medal at these World Track Cycling Championships.
Well, everybody watching this coverage, I'm sure, has got their absolute heads around points coverage. You know, points race coverage. You know exactly how it works. It's the race that John Dibben won last night, and obviously it's what we've just seen the women do. Mark Cavendish has that race to come, because this is his final event in the 6-race Omnium. Now, let's just take you through how the Omnium works. 3 events on day 1, which are the scratch race, the individual pursuit, and the elimination race. And then the time trial, the flying lap, and the points race today. Let's catch up with Jill Douglas, who can round up how Mark Cavendish has been getting on in the first 5 events.
The men's Omnium began with the scratch race, and Mark Cavendish survived this clash with Fernando Gaviria of Colombia, recovering to finish in 6th place, behind the likes of Elia Viviani of Italy and former world champion Glenn O'Shea of Australia. Next was the individual pursuit, and Cavendish went off fast but faded in the closing laps, enough to beat O'Shea, but only 13th fastest and 9th overall. More to his liking was the elimination race, and a 2nd place here behind Gaviria pushed the marksman up to 6th overnight. He began today with the kilometre time trial, and a 1:04.507 was good enough for only 12th place, and another slip down the standings. But Cavendish is suited to the final 2 disciplines, and in the flying lap he posted the 4th fastest time to move back up to 5th overall, and within touching distance of the podium places, going into the decisive points race.
And Chris, they have sort of changed the weighting of the Omnium, haven't they, to make this points race really important?
Yes, I think they felt initially that the Omnium might be favouring the sprint-based athletes more than the endurance-based athletes, and because this is the only individual endurance event for the athletes, they've made the points race the big one at the end.
So, Sarah, it really is possible that Mark Cavendish could win a medal if he goes well in this.
Absolutely. Every lap he could gain is worth 20 points, so he's going to need to gain a few, but he's obviously got the speed in his favour. Having said that, Elia Viviani is no stranger to turning on the gas when he needs to, so it's going to be a great race. It's going to be really, really tough, and it's going to be about who's got the legs left at the end of this really gruelling event.
These are his first World Championships since 2008. What have been his biggest challenges in coming back to the track?
It's just, you think it's just riding your bike, you know, so it should be the same as riding on the road, but there's technical elements to riding the track which are you can only do if you actually ride the velodrome. So for him it's about the extra cadence, it's about the fact that he's pedaling a lot quicker than he would do on the road. The skills, the proximity of the other athletes, yes, he has that on the road too, but it's something you have to practice, if you like. It's a specific skill. Have you seen him actually improving over the last 2 days? I think you can see it in the way his body language in the race, if that makes sense, the way he dictates the race. Like in the elimination race, that was the old Cav coming to the fore, and I think, you know, he loves that kind of battling, getting the elbows out, making space for himself, reading a race, being tactically astute. That's his strength, and I think we'll see that in the points race. And the reason, Sarah, it matters so much to him is this is his one chance to get to Rio.
Absolutely. So the road race in Rio is not going to be a sprinter's race. It's going to be hilly. It's going to be for the climbers. And so ultimately for Cav as an endurance rider, because as we talked about yesterday, it's very different being a sprinter on the road to being a sprinter on the track. This is his one chance to have a shot at Olympic gold for himself.
Well, let's just take you through how indeed the points can be won in this.
By the time they reach the 6th and last event in the Omnium, the riders are starting to get a little bit tired, but it's the most important of all because it's where the medals will finally be decided.
Rather than start as equals, each athlete goes into the 40-kilometre points race, 25 kilometres for women, with their accumulated points total from the previous 5 events. They then attempt to top up their tally by sprinting for points every 10 laps. First across the line gets 5, second 3, third 2 and fourth 1. If a rider gains a lap, then they get 20 valuable points. If an athlete goes into this decisive round with a reasonable buffer, then they can choose to ride defensively, marking their overall rivals rather than trying to win the race. On the flip side, those that are well behind at this stage have nothing to lose and often try to take a lap.
The overall winner, unsurprisingly, is the athlete with the highest score at the end of this final round.
Now, the crowd are going to play a big part here. Emily Nelson said it really helped her in her points race. So for Cav, is he going to attack early?
Well, I think the difficulty is that he's going to be a marked man. Even though he's not actually up there in the standings yet, they're going to realise he's a danger man. So the trouble is, every time he makes a move, there's such a noise that his rivals, even if they haven't seen him, they'll know that he's made
so it could be disadvantage.
Sometimes, yeah, like in the sprint or the Kieran, when I used to race with a home crowd, if I was trying to make a really late move from the back, the crowd would make a massive noise and people would react to it.
So he can't do anything stealthily, Sarah.
He certainly can't. I remember watching Lizzie Armitstead in the 2008 World Championships in Manchester, and you could see the frustration on her face at points. She's like, no, just wait a little bit until I've got a gap and then cheer.
Speaking of which, she had a big win this morning.
Absolutely huge win, and she was set up absolutely beautifully by Nikki Harris, who's come off a really great cyclocross season and is looking to help Lizzie really, get to the gold medal podium in Rio. So
and this was in Italy this morning in a big road race. There is Mark Cavendish, and he kind of knows, doesn't he? This is it, boom or bust.
I think this is where he will shine. I think he loves the pressure, he loves the big stage, and he is a big stage performer. He's done it at every level, but this is the one that he wants the most now.
160 laps with 16 sprints in it. Chris Boardman and Simon Brotherton. Here we go.
Here we go indeed. There's Elia Viviani from Italy, the Team Sky rider who races on the road as well with great success, but he is in the gold medal position with one race to go. He's on 180 points. And Fernando Gaviria from Colombia second on 166. There's Mark Cavendish. Quite right, I think, they're saying that he is going to be a marked man in this, isn't he, Chris?
Well, these are very unusual points races because there's so many subplots going on as people try to move up the rankings or defend a position. Viviani and Gaviria have really got to watch each other. It's they can ride it very defensively this race. I mean, even Tim Belt back on 144 points. That's more than a lap behind. So they'll have to participate, but they can afford to be cautious.
There's really an opportunity for Mark Cavendish here, certainly with Tim Velt from the Netherlands in third and Glenn O'Shea just ahead of him in fourth place. Cavendish fifth at the start of this final event.
Well, Cavendish is his kind of the people he could get together with, like Hansen and Kluger, a little bit further back than him, people who've got nothing to lose but are still close enough that it's worth them having a go. They're the people that he could form an alliance with.
Here we go, we're underway, and just briefly on the front was Thomas Boudin from France, the World Omnium champion from 2014, the Olympic champion Lasse Hansen from Denmark on the front at the moment. Not quite the campaign that Hansen was hoping for in these World Championships, in 7th place at the moment. I wonder what lies in store over the next 158 laps. Gideone Monteiro from Brazil was briefly on the front there, showing no ill effects from his crash yesterday. Tim Velt as well with a sore shoulder, the Dutch rider. But both were quick to pick themselves back up and get in the race last night. During of the USA on the front at the moment. Riders comfortably just doing bit and bit, taking a turn, and the leader overall in the blue of Italy, Viviani, and Gaviria sticking to his wheel like a limpet. He didn't even do a turn on the front, he just followed Viviani up to the top of the track.
Well, Gaviria's got to win some sprints in this, and he can absolutely take a gold medal here, but he has to get some distance between him and Viviani. He doesn't just have to beat him, he's got to get some distance. He's a very good sprinter.
Well, we've got a shot. This is from Viviani's bike, and that, I think, is the view that we'll have for much of the time, perhaps apart from the sprints with Gaviria right behind him.
Everybody happy to just let it play out to the moment, let a few laps tick away around the bottom. They're still travelling at over 30 miles an hour here.
And it's Ignacio Prado from Mexico riding on the front at the moment, and he has some company from Jasper de Boust, the Belgian rider, and Aaron Gate from New Zealand, who was the world champion 3 years ago in this event. During of the United States now going to the front, and Viviani up at the top of the track. Coming through on the inside is Hansen in the red and white of Denmark.
I think everyone's decided, hey, we're going a little bit quick here. I'm not quite sure where the fire is, but we don't need to be going so fast at this point in the race. And little lull now, 3 laps to go, or 2.5 laps to go before the first sprint.
And Cavendish went up the track there and nearly rode into Roger Kluger of Germany. Luckily realised at the last moment, the pair of them not colliding on the track. Just for a split second there, a minor anxious moment.
It's a three-dimensional thing, track racing, isn't it? You've got to look in every direction. Of course, no brakes, so you can't make a sudden adjustment.
Well, you certainly can't. If you do that, the bike suddenly becomes like a bucking bronco, as Aaron Gate races on the front at the moment. Teklinski from Poland is on his wheel. As Buda from France in the navy blue tries to go around the outside of Adrian Teklinski, and Buda's in a good spot here as he tries to take on Gate, who's leading out this first sprint. Coming around the outside is Gaviria there against Glenn O'Shea on the line, but Gaviria looked really sharp there.
Well, he did, and he did it. What we were talking about earlier, he put some significant distance between him and Viviani, so that makes a big difference for him.
Gaviria collecting 5 points, O'Shea 3, Budat 1, and Gate. Sorry, Budat 2 and Gate 1. So an excellent start to this final event for Fernando Gaviria. Viviani still leads on 180 points, but Gaviria closing the gap. It's now just to 9 points. He's on 171.
Well, this means that Viviani might need to change his tactics, because if Gaviria puts a couple of sprints together like that, if the writing's on the wall, it's a matter of time before he takes the lead. So even though he's leading at the moment, Viviani might decide he needs to go on the offensive and start attacking if he can't win the sprints or even stay with him.
Viviani there still looking calm and collected. Still 147 laps to go in this race as Montero from Brazil. Owen Green in the middle of your picture there with Kluger right behind him. Roger Kluger from Germany now going to the front.
Well, Viviani on Cavendish's wheel. Mark Cavendish looking to see if he could go on the offensive as well, but knew that Viviani wouldn't be allowed to go anywhere, so he decided to wait for another opportunity.
Well, Cavendish suddenly found Viviani and Gaviria were on his wheel. As Klug from Germany, he's the silver medalist from the Olympic Games in Beijing back in 2008. Very experienced campaigner, 30 years of age now, the Omnium World Champion from 6 years ago.
Well, he's in a healthy position as well, of course. Sixth position at the moment, 136 points, so gain a lap and suddenly he's in a podium position, so not to be taken lightly, this move.
Yeah, and level on points, as you say, with Mark Cavendish at the moment there, but in 6th place. And Kluger just looks up. Gate was closing the gap. Montero is there, but they're strung out behind it, and all going to come back together. And initially that chase was led by the Russian rider, Viktor Manakov, a former medalist, and the Mexican rider, Prado, is on the attack once again. Ignacio Prado, a world silver medalist in the scratch race here in London earlier this week.
Cavendish on the front, looking to go across again, seriously thinking about it, looking behind, see if he's going to be given some daylight. Well, he's not, but he's doing the right thing. He's chasing the lower placed riders who aren't a threat to the big names.
Now as they take the bell and Prado leads, and Cavendish has certainly got a little gap on the likes of Viviani and Gaviria, who are back towards the rear end at the moment. During is just behind Cavendish. Going around the outside is Suter from Switzerland, but Cavendish now gets the crowd on their feet, and Cavendish may have just been tipped on the line by the Swiss rider, Gael Suter. Let's have a look here. Cavendish thought that was in the bag, and it wasn't, and Suter just took it on the line. Suter 5 points, Cavendish 3, During of the USA 1, Prado of During of USA 2, Prado of Mexico 1.
Well, great to see Mark Cavendish getting stuck in. He's now 5 points off a bronze medal. So he couldn't get into a breakaway, so he's going to do it everywhere he can. He's going to ride this race aggressively. He's a fantastic bike handler and does well when it's well strung out like this.
Well, Cavendish, a three-time world champion, twice on the track. Of course, he won the world road race title in Copenhagen, memorably in 2011, but a track world champion in the Madison in 2005 with Rob Hales, and also in 2008 alongside Bradley Wiggins, and that pairing will race tomorrow, all being well, in the Madison, the final event of these championships. So lots to look forward to. It'll be a great race with those two racing together again in the Madison. There's Viviani and Gaviria. First and second overall, still close together as we ride, and we're having a look at the Polish rider Adrian Teklinski. There's Gaviria getting on the back of Viviani once again, as at the front of the race, meanwhile, the Boust of Belgium hitting the front, with Montero of Brazil behind him, and also the rider from Kazakhstan, getting involved towards the front of the race as well. That's Artyom Zakharov, who was third in the Omnium in Hong Kong recently in the World Cup. So his form was good coming into these championships.
First serious move we've seen so far. The pace has been deceptively high, actually. Even though it's been all together, they're travelling extremely quickly. There's been hardly any let-up at all. These five have just slipped away, but working well together.
But Gaviria is trying to close the gap. He's not hanging around. Gaviria wants to try and take this race by the scruff of the neck.
Viviani's on the back foot. He's chasing. He's spotted the danger. So both of them are having to get stuck in here. Gaviria is looking very strong to me. He might be in second position, 9 points back, but I think that Viviani would do well to be a little bit afraid here.
Cavendish neatly tucked in the middle of the field there, just going through over the line now.
Both of those riders, first and second place riders, right at the back now, looking at each other, trying to get behind the other so they can monitor events.
Bouda of France leading the way on this sprint lap, and Cavendish goes around the outside. The rider from Hong Kong challenging Mark Cavendish, but Cavendish has got the right line here now, and he should have the speed to ensure another 5 points. Excellent riding from Mark Cavendish as he edges his way up the leaderboard, and now he's up into third place in the overall standings on 144 points. So Cavendish, as it stands, on the podium, although we do have 129 laps to go here. But Cavendish has done some good work in the early stages of this race.
He's riding very aggressively. It does cost energy, which means he does have to take some risks. So he swung up the track, he's gone virtually to the back of this group, which means if something does slip away, he doesn't have any control to do anything about it. So those are the risks you have to take, the choices that you have to make. Am I going for the sprint? Am I going for the breakaways? And the pace that's been relentless, to me, says surely there has to be a breakaway at some point in this race.
Kuboki from Japan was at the front for half a lap, and Gate from New Zealand there in the all-black with Viviani on his wheel, and Gaviria still sticking to Viviani, following his every move on the track. The Olympic champion Hansen there on the inside in the red and white with a small gap over Kluger, with Tim Velt of the Netherlands, who's level on points with Cavendish but just edged out into fourth at the moment on the count back, and Velt there in the orange leading the way.
I was about to say, Gates seems to be trying to get stuck into this points race, but he's having a disaster, isn't he? 19th place, one from last.
For a man who was world champion 3 years ago, Gate. So there, you know, when you look at all of the teams there, as Gate has a go, you look at most of the teams down there, they've all got some issues and some things to go away and think about before Rio. There's nobody that can sort of say across the board they can be entirely happy or that they're entirely dominant, as was the case certainly with Great Britain going into the last couple of Olympic Games. As Prado from Mexico leads from During of the United States in the red and blue.
Just constant probing, isn't there? People looking for opportunities all the time, again and again and again, and surely one of these is going to succeed soon.
De Boust of Belgium on the front, Bouda swiftly on his wheel, and the rider there from Kazakhstan, Artyom Zakharov. I just sense that he's itching to get in a breakaway. He's just buzzing around the front of the race there as Gael Suter from Switzerland, who was third in Cali in the World Cup this week in January 15 in the Omnium.
2 laps to go now for the sprint, and Mark Cavendish has been just weaving his way up the group and getting himself nicely positioned on Gates' wheel in second place, looking backwards, riding it like a Kieran, really.
And again, it's Park Sang-hoon from Korea trying to get close to him. In fact, the rider from Hong Kong getting involved once again, but Aaron Gate leads the way. Kluger goes around the outside. Viviani also goes past Cavendish, who's not in a great spot at the moment, and he's decided to desist in this sprint. A really close one. Viviani, valuable points for him on the line.
Gets the better of Gaviria there in a sprint.
Oh, and Gaviria's countering straight away. While we're watching the replay, Gaviria is countering. We'll get back to the action in just a moment, but excellent sprint there from Viviani. Cavendish there just sitting up. He'll try his chances again before too long, but Gaviria was closed down very quickly as he tried to sprint away from Viviani, and that attack closed down inside a lap.
It was quite a turn of speed, and the only reason he didn't persist is because Viviani was right on his wheel, so there was no point in him doing it at all. But it was an incredible turn of speed, the best that we've seen so far in this competition. The laps just ticking away now, aren't they? 118, 117 laps as they come around this time.
Still a long way to go, though. Viviani there, the leader, 185 points. Gaviria there, silver medal position at the moment, 173. Big gap on Cavendish in third on 144. Velt also on 144, but just outside the medals. O'Shea 143, Kluger 139, Buda, former world champion, 130. Very competitive.
Yeah, it's breaking up now. It's not just the front group, it's breaking up behind. Mark Cavendish helping close some of those gaps mid-peloton. Probably a little bit annoyed at that previous sprint. He was just lining up for it, but found himself boxed at the last moment.
Little group just off the front. Hansen of Denmark, Montero of Brazil, Park of Korea, and Zakharov of Kazakhstan. Korean rider in the predominantly white kit with a bit of blue. There's the chase, led through by Aaron Gate. And Glenn O'Shea has joined that front group of riders from Australia, and also Kuboki from Japan.
Well, if anybody's got a desire to do so, when this catch happens, that would be the moment to go on the attack. They're getting close to the next sprint. It'll be 2 laps as they come around this time.
Cavendish on the wheel of Gaviria as the gap is closed by the Colombian, who is the defending champion.
And Viviani's a little bit far back at the moment, not monitoring the Colombian closely enough, I don't think.
But then suddenly, as they all switch up to the top of the track, Viviani just slid through on the inside, and suddenly he's up near the front as well as Jacob During from the United States.
Not really sure why they swung up so close to the sprint, to be honest.
Well, it certainly opened the door. They left the back gate swinging open there, and During took it, and Gaviria now goes around the outside of Glenn O'Shea. Glenn O'Shea, a former world champion in this, but Gaviria again looks super quick as he takes the points. 5 points, 3 for O'Shea, a couple of points for Zakharov of Kazakhstan as well, and Jacob During gets the 1 for the United States. So Viviani's lead is still
whittling away,
but he has got a little bit of daylight still over Gaviria, but Gaviria is looking really lively.
Well, it started on 14 points between the two. It's now only 7. Not even at half distance, so it's still looking good for the Italian.
O'Shea's just knocked Cavendish out of the top 3 with those points that he collected. He's 2 points ahead of Cavendish, who's down to 4th now. There we are, there's the confirmation of the latest standings here in this final event in the men's Omnium. And Tim Velt, who was 3rd, is now down to 5th, the Dutch rider. Kuboki from Japan. There's O'Shea from Australia. He's a 3-time world champion. He's won the team pursuit gold medal a couple of times as well, as part of the quartet for the Aussies in 13 and 14. And Park from Korea riding on the front at the moment. Park Sang-hoon, the 22-year-old, a former world junior individual pursuit champion. And Prado, who, as I mentioned before, has won a silver medal at these World Championships for Mexico already, leading the way with Montero, who has been quite prominent so far in this race, and Kluger from Germany. But the gap is being closed by Manakov of Russia and O'Shea.
Prado started quite a few moves in this race so far. Good turn of speed. Nobody wants to let it go at the moment. I thought we would actually see it more broken up, to be honest, because there's a lot of riders well down on points.
Well, Gate's certainly one of those riders who's well down, but he's riding much more like the sort of athlete that we might expect, because his record is very good. It's been a disappointing World Championship for him, but he's looking to end it on a high.
Oh, crash!
And there's a crash at the back end of the field. And the rider from Hong Kong is down, I can see.
I think.
Rider from Switzerland, that's Giles Suter. The rider from Hong Kong is down. That's just trying to have a little look at who that's. Lung Chun Wing. Here's the I think this will be the incident again there as Suter suddenly came.
Just overlapped the wheel, just overlapped the front wheel straight
down the track, and 2 more riders hit the deck as a result. Similar sort of position to the crash in the women's points race previously this evening as he went down. That's Park going over the top, and also the rider from Hong Kong, Lung Chun-wing.
I've been in that position, and it's terrible when you see it coming and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Meanwhile, the race continues as Aaron Gate is overtaken by Monteiro of Brazil and Jasper de Buist of Belgium in second place as they come up towards the line here for this latest sprint. Brazil, Belgium, New Zealand and Russia. Bouda of France on the tail end of this little group as they start to really put the hammer down a little bit, and Mark Cavendish about 3/4 of the way back through the field.
De Buist is persisting. He carried on the speed right over the line to make sure the group kept its momentum, and I think it's another serious move here.
And the good news is the rider from Hong Kong and the rider from Korea both back on the track, and there clearly was the Swiss rider back on his bike as well. Oh, they're made of tough stuff, these cyclists. They, wherever possible, just pick themselves up and carry on with the race and worry about the cuts and bruises later on. Sometimes, of course, that isn't possible, but fortunately for those three, they were in a condition which means that they are able to continue in the race.
And we'll bring you news on Caroline Ryan as and when we get it, but although she was being stretchered off, it did look like it was precautionary. She was smiling on the stretcher.
If you just joined our coverage, a very heavy fall for Caroline Ryan from Ireland, one of 3 riders to fall in the women's points race, and she did hit her head very heavily on the boards as she went over the top of the handlebars. Back with the points race here in the men's Omnium, the final race in the men's Omnium. Viviani of Italy in the gold medal position, Gaviria of Colombia in the silver medal position, and by 2 points, the Australian Glenn O'Shea, a former world champion in this event, leading Britain's Mark Cavendish. But Tim Velt also level with Cavendish on 144 points. It's really close in the fight, certainly for the podium. On the front, Kuboki from Japan.
Hansen going after him. This is a good move too. Hansen, not a major threat, down in 8th place, 126 points. So when everybody starts to get tired, they start to think more and more strategically and less passionately, and start to think, do I really need to chase that one? And that's when if you've got a midfield, you had an opportunity to push yourself up, but it would still take him within a shot of the podium.
So Kazushika Kuboki and Lasse Hansen leading the way at the moment, and Aaron Gate doing all the lion's share of the work in chasing them down, with Monteiro and Manakov of Russia. Cavendish up towards the front, Prado and Kluger on the inside as well. And next time over the line, there'll be a lap to go until the next sprint.
Well, it's starting to split up for sure now as riders are thinking much more strategically. They're really starting to get tired with 91 laps to go.
And Kluger's trying to get involved here because he's still got a chance of getting on the podium in this race. So Hansen and Kuboki lead the way. Kluger from Germany and Prado from Mexico closing that gap. That is where the points will go on this sprint, with Denmark, Japan, Germany and Mexico the first to go across the line.
Well, if Kluger can make the junction and get a good working group going, this would catapult him onto the podium, even take him into 3rd position with a buffer. The danger spotted by Mark Cavendish, who's driving the peloton behind. He missed that move. He watched him go and looked behind and see if there's anybody to chase. And by the time he'd realised no one else wanted to, the move had gone, and it's well consolidated now, half a lap up.
Gates going off the front of the chase group. There are the leaders who are coming into the finishing straight, but behind, Aaron Gate leads the chase for New Zealand. On his own at the moment, De Buist of Belgium is thinking about following the Kiwi, as is During of the USA, but suddenly Gates not really gaining too much ground on the others now as they start to up the pace.
De Buist back in with 105 points. He hasn't really got the motivation to try and chase this down, so it's for the likes of Mark Cavendish and Tim Velt really to do the damage here, because they're the ones with everything to lose.
So Cavendish on the front of the chase group at the moment. 4 riders out in the lead: Mexico, Japan, Germany and Denmark.
They're going to make the junction, Simon. They're now in the same straight. I think that the peloton have realised it's all over for them. They're not going to bring these 4 riders back. So we'll see counter-attacks happening almost immediately, but they are going to make the junction, which is really going to shake it up and cause a major problem for Mark Cavendish.
There are the 4 leaders who are closing in all the time as they look to gain a lap on the others in the field, with 84 laps to go for them now. The counter being led by Korea and Ukraine. Closed down all the time, and this has been an excellent move from Roger Klug from Germany.
Well, we're just hearing on the PA here that Gaviria has been given a warning for causing that track, for swinging right up the track, I think. I wasn't sure that it was his fault myself, but he's been given a warning.
During on the front for Australia, and we're hearing about Caroline Ryan from Ireland. The latest news is that she has been taken to hospital. She cut her face with her visor, and she is having x-rays and potential broken collarbone is the latest news on Caroline Ryan. And in the grand scheme of things, that's actually not bad news.
Well, she went down so hard, to be honest, I'd be surprised if she didn't. And she did go down on her shoulder hard as well. As Mark Cavendish attacks, he's taken it to them.
The good news is that hopefully Caroline Ryan from Ireland not seriously injured, though there may be a broken bone or two. Meanwhile, Mark Cavendish now is on the attack. Cavendish down to 6th place in the overall standings. He's got work to do. He knows he's got to throw the lot at this race to try and get back into it, but he just eases off and has a look behind. And Manikov from Russia was leading the chase, and Aaron Gate, who's done a lot of work, it strikes me, Chris, again he's on the front with Montero behind him.
Not riding desperately intelligently, but certainly aggressively and courageously. He is trying to force it to happen, but missing the main moves, whereas Kluger waited and waited, bang, made one big move and got himself into 3rd position, and he now has a 10-point buffer as well, so he too can start to ride defensively if he chooses to.
But it was a 5-point gathering for Mark Cavendish. There's confirmation of the overall standings at the moment. Viviani's still leading the way as he was at the start of this race. Fernando Gaviria from Colombia still in the silver medal position, but an excellent move from Roger Klug, a very experienced rider, to put himself at the moment in the bronze medal position, as Chris is saying, with a 10-point margin. Buda of France now on the front of the race, the 22-year-old direct energy rider. World champion in this event 2 years ago. Cavendish leads the chase after Buda. He's got Manikov on his wheel, Montero there, and Kluger as well, who no doubt will be keeping close tabs on Cavendish if he possibly can. And hey, what a surprise, Gaviria is right on Viviani's wheel. There they are, with Viviani in the blue and the white of Colombia right behind him.
I think that's probably his best card to play, although it's he's not going to be allowed to take a breakaway. He's got to do it on points. There's the one person to watch, and it's still close, just 7 points in it, and still got, what, 7 sprints to go, so it's a lot of points out there.
Buda's made the move, the Frenchman, but I don't think he's managed to catch them off guard at the right time possibly here, Chris, because they've responded a little bit too quickly from the Frenchman's point of view, and he's not gaining ground, so he will have expended a lot of energy, and in all likelihood maybe not gain too much from it, depending on whether the race still flows quickly behind him. It looks as if it will. Gaviria leads the sprint in the white there to bring the main field back towards During, and the rider who is with him at the front at the moment, the Kazakhstani rider Artyom Zakharov. So Zakharov, Hansen, Buda and During are the 4 at the front. Denmark, Kazakhstan, France and USA. But Brazil and Great Britain coming back now towards them as the bell goes, and Cavendish looks to get in the mix possibly here.
Gaviria thinks he can do it from this far out. When it's him who's got to score the points. Viviani's happy for them to mop them up.
Cavendish looked to his left, Gaviria went to his right, and look at Gaviria go here. He's riding like a man possessed. Brilliant riding from Gaviria. He got 3 points there on the line.
Well, that advantage of Viviani's is just disappearing fast.
There's a superb piece of sprinting there from Fernando Gaviria. Hansen took the 5 points, Gaviria 3, During 2, Buda 1, and he's closing in all the time. It's a 4-point lead now for Viviani over Gaviria with 69 laps to go, and Cavendish on the attack, and rather hoping that Zakharov and Lasse Hansen want to work with him, and just maybe they can really keep this race alive.
Well, this one could actually work, but O'Shea is bringing it back, but this is the first one we've seen Cavendish in that looks like it's at least got a shot, but again behind. The riders protecting those minor places are sort of working for the leading 3 really, and keeping the race together.
On the front is Artyom Zakharov, silver in the Asian Championships in the Omnium already this year. National champion Roger Kluger from Germany in the white and black on the front, the finger pointing from the official there, points at the first rider in the field. So if ever there's some confusion, you look at the commissaires and hope that they're getting it right, follow their finger pointing. And while we look momentarily at Kluge, and he rides up the track, going through on the inside, the Belgian rider there, Jasper de Buis, the Madison bronze medalist from a year ago in Paris.
They're going to do another lap, I think. That's a very strong three they've let get away, and they're hesitating behind.
This is a really good-looking move. De Buis, O'Shea and Kluge, three of the most experienced riders in this field now, leading the way, and the chase is being led by the Korean rider Park Sang-hoon.
Well, I tell you what, this is really interesting, because suddenly Gaviria, who's been looking at chipping away at Viviani's lead, is under threat, because if Kluge gets a lap, then he will go ahead of Gaviria on the board. So this is a very interesting move. The Colombian suddenly in a position where he's going to have to defend, and he's so close to Viviani, then so does the leader.
It's a 20-point gap between silver and bronze between the Colombian and the German, 20 points exactly. So Gaviria, no wonder he responded to that and went to the front a few moments ago. Gate is a willing worker, again the New Zealander.
Well,
and Montero as well.
They're lucky to have him, because really suddenly it's all for them to do. They've been riding defensively, watching each other. They've let a serious move slip away, and this could be a real threat for them.
And Hansen on the front, he has Manakov, Viktor Manakov of Russia right behind him, Tim Velt, Gael Suter, Mark Cavendish, back with the leaders now, Kluge, Jasper de Buis and O'Shea.
Suter just nudged Mark Cavendish out the way there, a wobble of the handlebars as he comes round to grab a point.
Cavendish completing the scoring on that sprint. Kluge from Germany, 5 points Germany, 3 Belgium, 2 Australia, 1 Great Britain. Cavendish 5th.
The gaps are opening, aren't they, for that bronze medal position? It's getting harder and harder.
Well, Cavendish is more or less where he started at the end of this final event, despite his best efforts here.
Well, this is going to shake up the leaderboard, because these three are about to make the junction.
Aren't they just? What a great ride in this final event in the Omnium from Roger Kluge from Germany so far. He will have gained, and is about to gain, 2 laps in this race, and Kluge has put himself right in the thick of it now as they make the junction. And Roger Kluge is now the leader on 186 points, with Viviani for the first time nudged out of the gold medal position by a point, and Gaviria down to 3rd.
Well, very carefully they managed to time the catch, so it's a very risky thing to do. They took the points while they were out there, the 5 points, and then made the junction, so really capitalised on that attack, taking 25 points out of it, and that's totally taken everybody by surprise. Viviani and Gaviria, experienced riders, to let that happen.
Yeah, I think it took people by surprise even more than they thought. Up to 186 points, so it's a 1-point lead for the German rider.
It's fragile for Kluge, though, isn't it? Because Viviani and Gaviria are better sprinters than he is. He's only got a 1-point advantage. It will be taken away from him if he relies on sprints, but they're not going to let him gain another lap, that's for sure.
What a final 53 laps we're going to have to this men's Omnium, all to play for here in the race for the world title. And there the number flapping around off Lung Chun Wing's jersey. He's one of the riders who hit the deck earlier in the race, as is that man there with a big hole in his shorts, number 35, Gael Suter from Switzerland, but still in the thick of the action. Even though his hip is red raw and no doubt screaming at him, still getting involved in it as best he can. The rider at the front of the race on the track is Artyom Zakharov from Kazakhstan, and there he is, just going through the finishing line. Chasing him down is the rider from Hong Kong, Lun Chun Wing, and the pack just behind him, and Cavendish is just being left behind a little bit there by Gaviria, who's leading the chase, and Viviani's having to react. Viviani about to go past Mark Cavendish as well. Gaviria is on the chase here to try and get that position back at the top of the leaderboard, because Gaviria has been nudged down into the bronze medal position, but Viviani is chasing him, and Viviani closing that gap all the time.
Be interesting to see whether they stick with it this time, because I think for Gaviria, if he kept working now, if he could get Viviani to work with him, then obviously they've got a problem with Kluge, and it's Kluge who now has to do the chasing. So it really is panning out to be an interesting race.
Well, it's great to see that Viviani and Gaviria, who certainly until this last race have been the best two riders in this competition, are going head-to-head right at the front of the race as we go into the closing laps. And Viviani now back in front after the last sprint because he got 1 point. So Viviani is level on points with Kluge at the top, but on the count-back lead. So Viviani in the gold medal position again. That 1 point proving decisive at the moment.
So Gaviria was the big loser really in the German move. I think Kluge's going to end up back. Personally, it's most likely he'll end up back in that bronze medal position, but with a good buffer behind him of well, you know, a huge amount of points there. So we've only got 46 laps remaining now.
Cavendish has slipped down into 6th place in the overall standings.
Well, not only 6th place, there's a bigger and bigger gap now. It's getting harder and harder. I think the podium, unless he can gain a lap, is out of reach now.
As will be Rio.
Well, it's going to be difficult to select him based on this. He's ridden superbly, as you would expect in this race, but it's such a specialised thing riding on the track. High torque moments, high cadences. He's acquitted himself well, but these riders have spent years doing this, and we saw the distance Gaviria put into him in that last sprint. It's a different thing to sprinting on the road.
Kazushige Koboki of Japan with Jasper de Boust of Belgium in the pale blue. Cavendish in 3rd there. Just has a look behind as he peels up the track. Viviani and Gaviria right on his wheel, apart from Korea, and going through on the inside. As we look at the leading 2 riders on the track, is O'Shea looking to close the gap for Australia. There we are, there's the picture we were looking for. Koboki looking round left and right with 2 laps to go now to the next sprint.
Bell this time as they come around, and everybody's swinging up with
Cavendish goes to the front now, and de Boust has seen that, and Gaviria has as well, and Gaviria hunts him down around the outside, and Cavendish has a little look, and in the moment it took for him to see who was coming, Gaviria had gone past and opened up a gap, and Gaviria takes the points ahead of Cavendish with de Boust 3rd over the line and Aaron Gate 4th over the line for New Zealand. So Gaviria now has retaken the lead in the overall standings. Those 5 points, as you will see shortly, have taken him 2 points clear of Viviani at the front of the race. Gaviria from Colombia now leads. Viviani in the silver medal position, Kluge in the bronze medal position, and O'Shea 20 points behind Kluge in 4th.
I think Viviani's going to struggle to wrestle that jersey from the shoulders of the Colombian. He's got himself into pole position now. He's proved himself to be by far the superior sprinter. He's canny enough not to let the Italian get away. And poor Mark Cavendish, 23 points off a medal now. Not only he has to score points and gain a lap, which I don't think is going to happen at this stage of the race. He would have to do something courageous on this in this home territory.
Well, he's got another race tomorrow as well, of course, the Madison on the final day. That's another tough one to look forward to, with Bradley Wiggins as Ignacio Prado from Mexico just ups the pace again, and he is being chased by Manikov of Russia and by During of the United States.
This race splitting up through sheer fatigue now rather than strategic moves. 35 laps to go as they cross the line.
And Prado continues to gain ground here. Montero from Brazil is leading the chase. A Russian rider now coming to the front. Manikov not for long. Tim Velt there with Suter just behind him. There's the Mexican rider at the front. Gate going through in the all black. Just looking back through the field, and Cavendish about halfway through down the main pack at the moment.
I don't think anybody in that peloton has got anything close to the sprint of Gaviria. I mean,
extraordinary burst of pace.
Of speed we've seen from him.
Tell you what, John Dibben would have given him a run for his money on that final lap in the points race last night. That was an extraordinary turn of pace as well, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It shows you how the change is made in this competition by putting so much emphasis on the points race, because Viviani went in with a 14-point lead into this event, and he's now being threatened by Kluge. He's in second position, could even find himself in third position if he's not careful.
So Ignacio Prado on the front for Mexico, but we'll see the Union flag on the helmet of Mark Cavendish there, leading the chase. The Russian rider Manikov on his wheel, and now, as if he's been fired from a gun, Gaviria tries to go around the outside of everybody. That's who we need to see, not the Mexican. And here we go, as Cavendish up towards the line, just holds off Gaviria, who gained an awful lot of ground there in that final half lap.
That was about 30 to 40 metres he closed in 3/4 of a lap. Incredible piece of sprinting, and trying to push on as well, because he can see that Viviani's been caught out.
Yeah, absolutely. Prado of Mexico with the 5 points, Cavendish 3, Gaviria 2, Manikov 1. So Gaviria now leads Viviani by 4 points. Kluge still in third place. Viviani and Kluge both on 186. So silver and bronze still close as well. But they are the three who are going to end up on the podium now, I think, because we only have 28 laps to go. It's hard for someone to close in, isn't it, in this amount of time, do you not think?
Well, you've got O'Shea and Hansen who could, you know, score some points and take a lap, but that's the kind of, you know, we're talking huge asks with just 27 laps to go.
Yeah, exactly. But O'Shea, it's been a good effort from O'Shea. There's Gaviria. Well, no wonder he's puffing and blowing a bit. His sprinting prowess has been there for all to see. He first came to prominence, or first came to everyone's notice, certainly on the world stage, in February of last year, when he beat Mark Cavendish in a couple of stages of the Tour de San Luis in Argentina.
A sprint to the future, both on the track and the road, as you say, as the attacking starts again.
With the Ethics team, he was a teammate of Cavendish's last year, not so this year. Cavendish having moved elsewhere. Aaron Gate on the front, the Brazilian Gideone Monteiro right behind him.
Gate down in 19th position with just 29 points, so this is just pride. Just wants to get out there and race.
There's Viviani, who led for so long, and Gaviria now within touching distance of defending his world title, but still with work to do. He's not home and hosed, not by any stretch. Relative to the rest of the race, a minor lull among the riders, although I'm sure it doesn't feel like it. So many tired legs out there.
I think in Viviani's position, he's marking Gaviria. Well, they've just switched places now, but to be honest, I think they should keep an eye on Kluge. He's the big threat, I think.
He's towards the back of the group there, Roger Kluge, as Kazushige Kuboki from Japan has a little dig.
I think Kluge is going to wait right to the end of this race and just try and launch one to see if he can nudge himself up the podium a place.
Give it one big diesel effort for the closing couple of laps. Kuboki joining the front three, Prado, Gate, Monteiro and Kuboki. There's Kluge from Germany now. He's decided to have a little go with the sprint lap coming up, and Kluge now out of the saddle, digging in. There he is, just popping off the right-hand side of your picture, closing in.
Fast.
Closing in on those in front of him, and suddenly Roger Kluge looks like Fernando Gaviria as he comes up towards the line. Oh, that was a superb piece of riding from the German. Really, really impressive.
And he's not stopping either. He's keeping going.
And he's in the gold medal position. He's on 191 points. Oh, this is swinging one way, swinging the other, ebbing and flowing. This race for the gold medal in the men's Omnium is absolutely thrilling, and Kluge from Germany now leads by a point, and he's got to just catch his breath for a moment because Gaviria has to respond, and is.
Well, he is, yes, but he's also towing Viviani, and Viviani is the one that could capitalise here, because Gaviria has to chase down Kluge, who's absolutely spent, so no doubt they'll bring him back now. But Viviani has an opportunity to counter if he's got anything left.
What a race. Kluge in gold, Gaviria silver, Viviani bronze.
It's just turned on its head, hasn't it, in the last few laps?
Mark Cavendish is 6th at the moment on 156 points. The medals are out of reach for him. But what a fantastic battle for the medals here. There's the man who has the lead. It's the slenderest of margins at the moment.
Well, I thought that's what we were going to see from Kluge, but further into the race, because if it comes down to a sprint, you're not going to back anybody other than Gaviria, and he's only 1 point behind, so if he doesn't panic, he can still, probably will still take this world title.
Kluge is just regrouping as best he possibly can, and he'll be hoping that he's got at least one more big effort in him to try and repel Gaviria. But Gaviria is still probably in the box seat in terms of winning this.
I think his only chance is if none of them score, if all the points get up there. That's the danger for Gaviria now, is that all the points go up the road. They've got 3 riders away now, 14 laps remaining.
Could do with these riders staying away, couldn't he?
Well, Kluge could, but Gaviria needs to score some points, of course.
Kubocki, Hansen and O'Shea. Well, it's a good trio, particularly the Dane and the Australian.
And at this point in the race, nobody's going to be too desperate to chase them. There's no winner. It's the only event in the Omnium where you don't have a winner of that event, because you all start with different totals, of course. The winner of this event is the winner of the race overall.
As Kubocki leads the way for Japan. It's half a lap now, the advantage for these 3.
Well, what Gaviria needs is for them to gain a lap as quickly as possible, so that they can get back to sprinting for maximum points.
Kluge coming to the front.
Kluge should sit on the front and drive the pace a little bit, really.
Jasper de Boust has decided to go for it, and Viviani has gone with him, and now Gaviria's got some chasing to do. He goes around the outside of Boudin. He's going to try and close the gap on Viviani. 3 riders out in front. Viviani now, who is in the bronze medal position, is being overtaken by Fernando Gaviria, who clearly is the fastest sprinter in the race. And Gaviria goes past the Italian here, and he will claim 1 point here in this sprint. So Gaviria will join Kluge on 191, and he will now, on the count back, go into the lead. Level on points with the German, both on 191. Gaviria 1, Kluge 2, and 3 Viviani.
Well, this time the 2 of them are out in front. They've been marking each other the whole race, but this time I think they're going to be prepared to work, because they've isolated Kluge back in the pack, and they can just duke it out between the 2 of them in 8 laps time.
Well, Kluge looks like he knows it as well. He looks pretty tired out there in that main pack. Here are the leading riders at the front of the race. It's de Boust of Belgium, Gaviria, Cavendish and Viviani. Well, what a quartet we've got at the front, and Cavendish looking to get involved. What a high-quality group we've got at the front.
It's coming back together, though, isn't it? The speed's got up behind, and Kluge's going to get another shot, and he could be the beneficiary here, because he hasn't sprinted or worked on the front. Maybe he's had a breather and he can do something with it. 6 laps to go.
Maybe he can stoke the fire one final time and have one last big roll of the dice here and hope that he can hang on. He's been trying to catch his breath for 2 or 3 laps now, as Aaron Gate goes for
again
a run on the inside of the track. And again, Viviani is the first to respond, but
and no response yet from Gaviria.
Well, Gaviria is right near the back of the whole pack, and Gaviria showing no response at all.
Well, this is fascinating, because Viviani doesn't realise the possibilities, because he's swinging up the track, but just a kilometre to go.
He should have kept going, shouldn't he, Chris? He had quite a big advantage there, and Gaviria at the time showing no inclination to respond, but now maybe he will, and he's closing in on his opponent now, and Viviani has slipped down into 4th in the overall standings. O'Shea is up to 3rd, level with 3 riders on 191 points at the top of the leaderboard now.
Unbelievable. It's all going to come down for all of the medals to the last sprint. Quite incredible situation.
Well, I think this computer is about to go into meltdown as Cavendish, as they will take the bell. 1 lap to go next time. Cavendish wants to finish this in style. He's not going to be the world champion, but he wants to have a real go in this final sprint to really give the crowd something to cheer about. Cavendish with Viviani on his wheel, Kubocki in 3rd, de Boust in 4th, and now Cavendish leads them out the final sprint against Viviani, and Cavendish holds him off, but Viviani gets 2nd on the line. Mark Cavendish looking to finish in style. Cavendish takes the win, and because of the way it's worked out with the finish, we are being told well, it's changed twice in the space of the last 5 seconds, and the computer hasn't quite worked out, but we think that Gaviria has retained his world title. Gaviria, Kluge and O'Shea have all finished on 191 points. What a competition.
Well, you were joking about the computer having a meltdown. It's flicking around. The judges in the track centre are desperately trying to make sure that it's all correct. I don't think I've ever seen, and I've said this before this week, I've never seen a points race that close. If we've got all three medalists scoring the same.
Final sprint was won by Mark Cavendish. Viviani took 3 points. De Baus took 2. Kuboki of Japan 1. Gaviria celebrating the successful defence of his world title. But my goodness me, did he have to work hard for it.
And what about O'Shea? Just nipping away, and just clawed his way onto that podium and almost had a shot at gold there.
Dogged determination. Gaviria gold. Germany in the shape of Roger Kluge there taking the silver medal, and O'Shea dogged determination throughout in third place. Viviani, who led going into the final race, provisionally down to fourth, 2 points outside the medals. No wonder he looks disappointed there in the blue. And Hansen, the Olympic champion, up into fifth. Mark Cavendish in sixth place. Well outside the medals in the end, but finishing with a flourish and aplomb with that final sprint win. But Gaviria is just waiting for the official confirmed result. He clearly thinks he's won. The computer thinks that he's won. But there is, as you can clearly see, a little debate going on just to confirm the outcome of this men's Omnium. They've got to get this right because it is so close between the leading three riders.
Well, that was one of the best points races I've seen for a long time in an Omnium. I've seen them ridden very defensively, which tends to stifle the whole thing, but that was fantastic. There were so many people that had a chance there and got themselves back on terms, and so many good riders that just kept getting it stuck in. Mark Cavendish was involved throughout, wasn't he? I mean, he rode courageously, but to be honest, he was outgunned in that one.
He's some rider, though, isn't he, Fernando Gaviria, at 21 years of age. There's the confirmation that Gaviria has retained his world title by the slenderest of margins. Former world junior champion in the Omnium, and now a two-time senior world champion in this event. Gaviria, what a turn of pace he has, and he needed to show that time and time again in that race.
Well, great to see that win being celebrated there with family and teammates.
So it's gold for Colombia. Just. It stays with Fernando Gaviria, but what a race.
What an extraordinary race, and at the end of 6 events for it all to be level in the top 3, and the Colombian there, Gaviria, comes out on top, but by the narrowest of narrow margins. Roger Kluge, who gets the silver medal, picked up 55 points in that race alone. Didn't he start sort of pretty much level with Cavendish?
Yeah, pretty much so. I think Mark did all he could. You know, I think he raced well there, but he just didn't seem to have the legs today, and it was a shame. You could just see the difference between the likes of the Colombian, even Kluge as well. That turn of pace that they had when it counted, and Cav, although he had the last sprint in him there, he just didn't quite have that consistency through the race.
There were some stunning moments within the race. Let's have a look at one of Gaviria's most dramatic moves. Talk us through it, because Cav's out in front here.
Cav's in the front here, and you just see that, well, we might miss it here actually, but this is the turn of pace the Colombian had.
It took Cavendish by mistake, by surprise, didn't it?
I personally think that Viviani threw that away in the race. He was essentially having a two-man battle with him and the Colombian.
This is Roger Kluge. You can see him winding it up there behind the front four, coming right round the outside of them and taking them all. Amazing.
I think when they look back at the race themselves, the athletes, when they analyse the race, there'll be so many moments that they're kicking themselves that they've won or lost sprints by literally a couple of inches, and that made all the difference in the end.
In the end, Sarah, Cavendish won 3 sprints, including the last lap, which he wanted to finish in style.
Well, when it's really close at the top, you need to put yourself as far up the field as you can on that final sprint, because if there's a countback needed, that final sprint usually counts towards deciding in the case of a tie. Now, it wasn't enough for Cavendish on this occasion. If Viviani had come round, we would have had 4 riders on 191 points, which would have been even more incredible.
It is an amazing way to finish. Now, I know you were telling me how much the Omnium has changed. Do you like this now as a finale?
I'm a convert, I think. You know, I'm a ex-kilo rider, so I like to see the kilo at the end previously, but you can't argue with that. What an exciting way to end.
I know.
I mean, the issue is maybe with complications for non-cycling fans to get a gist of what's going on, but I think the more this event establishes itself in this routine, the better it will be.
Let's be honest, in our assessment right now, you guys are the experts. Has Mark Cavendish done enough here to be part of the squad in Rio or not?
Not, I think.
Sarah?
No, I think there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done, and unfortunately the track season is a winter season, so he doesn't have a number of events at this level between now and Rio. Had he had that, he may well have been able to continue to progress, because he has progressed enormously since he came back to the track, but I don't think there's going to be enough time for him to prove that he's got it above anyone else.
And when you look at all 6 events, would you say that, actually I'm not even going to ask you that question, because let's get down for the sprint medal races. Here's Simon.
And here we are, the men's sprint finals. This the race for bronze, and it's between Denis Dimitriev, who's riding on the front there, the Russian rider, a 3-time World Championship medalist, but twice the silver, including last year, and once a bronze. He's going for the bronze here again, and he's up against Damian Zielinski from Poland. Zielinski, who was beaten by Jason Kenny in the semi-final. So Dimitriev, 29 years of age, has won the medal 3 years running, looking to make it the 4th year in a row on the podium in the men's sprint. Zielinski just rolling along slowly behind, no doubt grateful that Dimitriev has just upped the pace a little bit.
No French in the finals anywhere to be seen this year. That's a real surprise after the performances in Paris 12 months ago. But that's not to say that the times haven't been fast.
So much experience out on the track with those two. Dimitriev now at the back for Russia. He would be the favourite, I think, for the bronze medal out of these two. But you never know. And Zielinski will lead at the bell.
Dimitriev's either very confident, well, he is.
Yeah, he's confident and he's showing his class here, Dimitriev. What has Zielinski got in the tank? Can he fight back on the finishing straight? Well, the answer is no, and that was a straightforward win for Denis Dimitriev.
That was pure legs and confidence there. He let himself just ride on the wheel, and normally that doesn't give you any kind of slipstreaming, so very confident there.
So there we are, an excellent start for Denis Dimitriev, convincing winner in this best-of-3 race for the bronze medal in the men's sprint. It's Dimitriev 1, Zielinski 0.
And now it comes to Jason Kenny and Matthew Glaetzer to fight it out for the gold medal. It will be best of 3 again. And Chris, you said at the beginning of the programme, I would imagine, having seen the semi-finals, you are even more confident that Jason Kenny has it in him to win a gold medal here.
Absolutely believe he can do it, but you cannot underestimate the strength of Matthew Glaetzer, the Australian. Phenomenal talent, and he's come through the junior ranks, junior world champion. He's made his way into the Australian team. He's a bit of a prodigy, really, just one of these amazing athletes that come once in a generation. So Jason has a huge task ahead of him, but I think he can do it.
What are these moments like just before a gold medal sprint race?
Equal measures of terror and excitement. It's incredibly nerve-wracking, and the nature of the event, it's split-second stuff. It's decisions you make in the moment. All you're trying to do is focus on what you want to do in the race, trying to block out all the distractions. You're not thinking about winning, losing, anything else apart from how you want to ride the race.
And do you do everything in the same order every time?
You do. You don't always know that you do. I wasn't aware that I did, but watching videos, you see yourself doing the same things at the same time. But Jason right now, he'll be running through his mind exactly how he wants to execute this race from the back. I imagine he's going to want to try and create some space for himself and run onto the wheel. But Glaetzer has got a long sprint, so he can equally match that. If he goes to the front, he's very hard to beat as well.
It's going to be cat and mouse, Simon.
The World Championship final. Jason Kenny of Great Britain against Matthew Glaetzer of Australia, and what a battle it promises to be between these two.
A battle it is going to be as well. I think this is going to come down to tactics. Both of them have shown that they're clearly the strongest sprinters here. Come through pretty smoothly all the way through. The right riders in this final, that's for sure.
Jason Kenny looking to become the world sprint champion for the 2nd time in his career. Would be a 3rd rainbow jersey for him. Hasn't been a world champion since 3 years ago in the Keirin. Best-of-3 final here. Glaetzer, 23 years of age, from Adelaide in South Australia. Very much a rider on the up. He's beaten 2 world champions to get to this point. He's beaten Theo Boss in the early rounds. He beat the defending champion Gregory Bourget as well from France. And that is the view as he looks behind.
He's accelerating. He's trying to make it look like he isn't, but he's been accelerating hard. And oh, he nearly tempted Kenny to come inside there, but stalled him.
As they take the bell, Kenny goes up the banking, and now Gleitzer leads out the sprint. Can Kenny close the gap down the back straight? Roared on by the London crowd. Can he slingshot into the finishing straight up towards the line? Oh no, and I think the Australian just get it on the line.
Well, I don't know myself, it was close. It really was on the lunge, wasn't it? The scoreboard not updating at the moment. I'd like to see that one because he was coming fast. No, I think it was Gleitzer.
Gleitzer gets it on the line by a tire's width. So close.
There's not much between them. I would say that Kenny's got the physical edge, but they're so close that you need a little bit more than that. And Gleitzer, that just stall that he threw him with just over a lap to go, could have made the difference there.
It's amazing how quickly things could change. Look how close it was. It was the width of a tyre.
It's 0.02 of a second. That's what it looks like at those speeds.
That's not even half the blinking of an eye, is it?
No, it's thinking about blinking.
Here's the view again as Jason Kenny tried to get past his man, and so nearly did. He came within a hair's breadth of taking that first ride, but suddenly this World Championship final now hangs in the balance already for Jason Kenny. He is in the last chance saloon very, very quickly here now.
But at least he's in the final and sprinting well, better than we've seen for the last three years, I'd say.
Best of 3 final. Gleitzer needs one more win to take the gold medal. Jason Kenny has to win their next race.
How close was that? It almost looks in those last seconds as if they pick the bike up and throw it over the line.
Yeah, the lunge is crucial. You have to time it exactly right. And we saw the gap there, 2,000th of a second. But let's not forget, the time trial, the gap between them was 1,000th of a second. And, you know, phenomenally close. Jason, I think the mistake happened, or not mistake, but the opportunity arose about a lap and a quarter in. Gleitzer left the door open. Jason went for the inside. Gleitzer just saw it in time and shut the door on him, and that was the chance. If he'd got the inside line there, I think Jason could have had it. But it was, yeah, he shut it down. And from there, he's right on his wheel. He has to try and create a gap by gaining height there. But there's not enough time to create a big enough gap that you can use that slingshot effect. And he almost got it. I think he did very well. But if he can ride from the front, the way that he see a little flick there as well, from Gleitzer, just enough to hold him off.
So just those tiny bits of unbalancing definitely made the difference.
It does. And it's a fine balancing act between getting close enough to the rider that you're getting a really close slipstream. But if you get too close and they flick you like that, then it does put you off your stride. But if you go too wide, then you're going a long extra distance around the outside.
How often did you come back from first set down, as it were?
Quite a few times, actually. Not in the sprint. I only made the sprint world final once, and I won it 2-0. But there are numerous times where I lost the first ride, and I went away really angry. The most important one for me was the race against Theo Boss in 2008. He was defending world champion. It was the quarterfinals of the Worlds in Manchester. Lost the first round, and I came back to beat him 2-1. Jason can do it. It's going to be tough, but you know, it's as we've seen, there's nothing in it.
And Sarah, how good generally are the professional cyclists now at recovering themselves, getting themselves mentally and physically right again?
Well, this is what you train for. You've done this hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times, even in training. You probably do more efforts in a training day than you would in a competition day to prepare for this. He'll get on the rollers, he'll loosen his legs off, he'll talk to his coaches, and he'll be continuing to keep fluid in him and make sure that he's hydrated and ready to come back out on the track in a very short time.
How long do they get?
It's not long. I think it's about 15 minutes or even less at this stage. Physically, the size of the gears they're using now as well, it's a great amount of force. It's not just about your heart rate or you know, energy expenditure. It's physical damage within the intramuscular physical damage, if you like, because they're producing huge amounts of torque as well as power. And on a sort of micro level, and muscle tears, fatigue, that does build up. So, you know, it's obviously not just physical, it's mental as well. When you're 1-0 up, your morale is up, and you know, you don't don't feel that pain quite as much. But I'm sure Jason will just be focused on the next ride, not thinking beyond that, just thinking he has to win this.
There is a medal ceremony coming up. This is for the men's Omnium, that extraordinary race that ended with 3 of them level on points. Simon can give us the details once again.
Well, what a high-quality podium we've got here, as Fernando Gaviria very much is a face of the future in professional road cycling, never mind on the track. Blisteringly quick. Has successfully defended his world crown just by a hair's breadth.
Real surprise not to see Viviani in the number, and went into that final race with a 14-point lead. Came out of it empty-handed.
Glenn O'Shea, former world champion in this discipline 4 years ago, just before the London Olympic Games. He won in Melbourne.
I mean, I think he looks a little bit disappointed, but perhaps being harsh on himself. He fought his way back into that, and yes, it was equal on points, but he had to get to that point, and he made huge strides, as did Klug. And phenomenal ride from him to take 2 laps to get himself into this position, so he is happy.
Roger Klug as well, a former world champion in 2010 in the Omnium, so nearly world champion for the 2nd time in his career. What a good career it's been for him as well, and Klug, of course, very much a rider like Gaviria, who rides on the road. He rode the Giro last year and finished. He rode the Tour de France the year before as well, rides for EM Cycling. And here is the winner.
Just shows you how heavily weighted this event is now towards this final event. A discipline that Gaviria is so good at, but Kluger 40 odd points moved forward in one event, but all the other events, you're not able to do that. It seems slightly unbalanced to me.
But do you not think, as a spectacle, it was more? It was more entertaining, you know, for everybody watching, rather than watching a time trial.
No, very much so. I mean, order of events is one thing, but I'm not sure what you do. Maybe less sprints in it, or maybe leave it alone. That it is what it is.
It is what it is, and he is what he is. The world champion again for the 2nd year running. Fernando Gaviria. Stage winner in the Tour of Britain as well last year. 8th in the Ride London Surrey Classic last August, so a man of many talents on road and track.
Well capable of being the next Mark Cavendish on the road. That turn of speed, he can use it out there in the road professional world as well.
Yeah, came in with good form as well, won another couple of stages in the Tour de San Luis right at the start of the season. Gaviria in the lead up to these World Championships. And here now is the Colombian national anthem.
The national anthem of Colombia.
Fernando Gaviria celebrating his World Championship title and the national anthem there of Colombia. Mark Cavendish finished 6th in the end in the Omnium, reflecting on that and indeed the start for Jason Kenny, who needs to win the 2nd leg of their gold medal head-off. Let's go down to Jill Douglas, who's been talking to Great Britain's technical director Shane Sutton.
Well, Shane, let's have a word first of all on Jason Kenny in that sprint, just 0.002 of a second. He was very, very close.
Yeah, he was close. Probably took a little bit too much height and the gap got a little bit too big for him. But yeah, brilliant performance and all to play for in the next one.
He's very much at the races, isn't he, this week?
Yeah, and I think that's what, we were looking for, and, he's turned it around, showed good progression through Hong Kong, and, yeah, he's happy. I think we're all happy, but obviously he's still got a chance of winning.
A word on Mark Cavendish now. That was a very, very classy points race. He just missed out on getting away and getting those valuable points. What was your overall impression of his Omnium?
Yeah, I think, the name didn't help him. The greatest road sprinter of all time comes to the boards. Yeah, he sort of had a monkey on his back all night, but he's showed some real quality there, and we'll sit down with Mark and discuss where we go from here.
Everybody wants to know, is he going to get on that flight to Rio? What's your gut feeling at the moment?
Well, that's something we'll discuss with him. Him and Heiko, they'll have a look at the analysis from this week, see where he's at, but Mark will be foremost thinking about tomorrow, I guess, to Madison, and then we can all come together and decide where we go from here.
I think there's a feeling that perhaps if he got a medal, it might help his chances of being on that team to go to Rio, given that, team pursuit has to be your focus as well.
Yeah, for sure. That fifth rider is going to be part of that TP, which is a big medal opportunity. So, like I said, at this moment in time, emotions are high, you've come off, he rode some great sprints out there during it, but at the end of the day, he didn't get the result he wanted. But, we're not discounting Mark at this moment in time. That decision's between him, us, the coaching team, so we'll sit down and see where we go.
Thanks, Shane.
Cheers.
If ever you wanted a lesson in not committing yourself, that is a good lesson from Shane Sutton,
on the
isn't
fence.
it? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he has to, really. I mean, as he said, the emotions are high. Mark doesn't want to hear that the head coach has said he's not going to the games. Who knows what's going to happen? There's still plenty of time.
Well, presumably they can decide really late. When do they have to?
And they tend to, because lots of things can happen. Injuries, changes in form. We didn't find out in London, or before London, until about 3 or 4 weeks before. So they can leave it very late. And, he is improving. That's the point. I think he's on a kind of the upward ascendancy. And in theory, he could make it in time for Rio.
It's still, I have to say, pay huge respect to him, Sarah, for even trying, because the risk was always there that it might not pay off.
Absolutely, and he's come in here and given it his absolute heart. And as you could see during that points race, he's a marked man. Everyone wants to get on Mark Cavendish's wheel. They know that he's got the speed. They want to capitalise on that. If he's trying to take a lap, they're going to hunt him down. Similarly, in the elimination race yesterday, we saw that he was getting barged around by the riders that were just ahead of him on the points tally. Nobody wants to see Mark Cavendish here taking away the glory, because he does it so often to them on the road.
And plenty of countries would love to have the luxury of not picking Mark Cavendish, if indeed, or having him available for selection, and what they decide, they will decide. But John Dibben, having won that points race the other night, has given himself a real head start on that list. Right, Jason Kenny is one down. He's got to win the next one, and indeed the one after that, if a gold medal is to be his. There he is. And, yeah, that's not exactly luxury, is it, down there?
No, I mean, it's tough, and at this stage now, there's mind games going on. You're not looking at your opponent, you're trying not to look at your opponent, but at the same time, you want to appear as if you're fine, as if you're not tired, as if you're not out of breath, as if you're completely cool. So Jason is very cool, to be fair to him, and you can still see he's breathing relatively hard there. It's tough. This is where the mental strength as well as the physical strength really comes into play.
Shane Sutton just mentioned in that interview just a couple of points that didn't help Jason Kenny, and when you only lose by, what was it, 2/1000ths of a second, any little deviation is going to pay. So just talk us through this again.
That was his chance to get the inside. Glaetzer was just too alert. Jason then gained height here to create the gap. At this stage, that was possibly too big a gap for him to close down, considering that they were both accelerating. It's good to have a big gap if you're both at the same speed, but Glaetzer was already accelerating all there.
Actually, it was Glaetzer there that wobbled off the straight line, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's what you do. You don't come out the red line, but a little flick is enough to just hopefully put off your opponent.
So do you start sort of chanting to yourself or anything to get your heart rate down, to get yourself in some kind of a
right now
zone?
It's just you're kind of you realize you're at the sharp end of things now, and this is what the training's for, this is what the mental preparation is for, and the athletes love it. This is the bit that I miss. This is the bit that you want to be out there. It's a love-hate thing, because it is nerve-wracking and it is tough, but yeah, Jason will he always shines when the really big occasion comes along. Whether he wins or not here, I think he's going to come away very, very encouraged by his performance, and he still has the Kieran to come tomorrow after this.
And there is a great insight into the mind of a champion. Moments that might make the rest of us feel slightly sick. Chris Hoy goes, I love this. This is what I miss. Well, here we go. Bronze medal race will be coming up first. But Jason Kenny just toweling himself down, getting himself ready. He knows what faces him. He has to beat Matthew Glaetzer. But first up, round 2 of the bronze medal race. Simon.
Great insight there into the mind of an elite athlete. Here's Denis Dmitriev. He's at the top of the track. There he is, the Russian rider who was very dominant in the first match-up here in the race for bronze against Damian Zielinski from Poland. And Zielinski ...12 years after racing in Athens in the Olympic Games, trying to get onto the podium in the World Championships. At the age of 34, but I think he's got it all to do here to keep his hopes alive against the Russian.
Well, Dmitriev all but ignored him in the last race. He just let him wind it up, stayed sat behind him, pulled out and accelerated past. He really had confidence there to ride it in the way he did, and no problems at all. So it must have been quite demoralising, talking about mind games.
So can Zielinski find that little bit extra to keep this bronze medal race alive? Or will that man there, who we're looking at, Denis Dmitriev, secure a place on the podium for the 4th year in a row, as we have a track stand for the first time here in these finals? The crowd will like that, and they will just keep an eye on it, because they will not be allowed to stand there all day. Otherwise we could be waiting for 10 minutes or so, but luckily before the judges intervene, the race continues.
Yeah, they've got half a lap. They have to keep it at least walking pace, then they can stand still. So I don't think that's going to help him, to be fair.
He's decided to slowly wind it up now, and Dmitriev, a couple of bike lengths behind him, looks very composed and relaxed as he follows the Polish rider. Here's the build-up now to the sprint, which will ensue as they take the bell. And Dmitriev has his opponent right where he wants him now. Can Zielinski stay at the front here as the Russian Dmitriev challenges on the outside? The bronze medal's on the line, and the bronze medal is comfortably won by the Russian in 2 straight rides. And Dmitriev, who's still yet to become the world champion, has nonetheless shown considerable consistency in match sprinting in world championship level. 2 silvers and 2 bronze medals now in the last 4 years.
Well, he got that gap just right in the back straight, and tremendous acceleration. Just timed it perfectly.
So here it is once again, Zielinski leading out. He did what he had to do, got himself to the front, tried to stay there, but I think pretty quickly it became apparent that that wasn't going to be the outcome for the Polish rider.
No, not at all. Dmitriev totally in control throughout there, and a deserved bronze medal for his troubles.
Yeah, able to just ease up a little bit, looked unperturbed as he crossed the line. And it's bronze for Russia then in the men's sprint, in straight rides.
And leading the applause up here on the balcony was Sir Chris Hoy. That was so smooth. He made it look easy.
Yeah, I think Dmitriev was in control there. Zielinski, you know, to be fair, I think that was a great result. 4th place is still a commendable result for him, but he just didn't have the legs against Dmitriev. The track stand, you could see that was essentially neither rider wanted to lead out, and Zielinski was happy to go from the back.
And here comes Jason Kenny out onto the track. Listen to the roar from this crowd. They will give him all of their support, because he has to win this 2nd heat against Matthew Glaetzer.
This is it. It's now or never in terms of this World Championship for Jason Kenny. He has to get it right to take it to a 3rd ride and keep the dream of being the world champion again alive.
So close between them that he could easily do it. Well, I use that word carefully. It's certainly within his capabilities, absolutely. He has got to win here just to stay alive, but I'm sure that he can do it. He's in front of a home crowd, just 2 thousandths of a second in the previous ride, with just getting tactically caught out. So if he gets it right, his nose could be in front.
So Jason Kenny rolls away from the start. Matthew Glaetzer having beaten him by 0.02 of a second in their first ride. It was that close. Shut the door on Kenny at a vital moment, just as they were really getting into the sprint. And then just a slight flick of the wheel as well as they were coming around the final banking. Just took the edge off Jason Kenny for that split second, which can make all the difference as the tension builds around the arena.
All just psychological, because I think Kenny doesn't want to relinquish that front position, of course. He just wants to control Glaetzer.
Glaetzer looking to become a world champion as an individual for the first time, a team sprint world champion previously back in 2012, but as a really young rider. He's still only 23, but yet to claim an individual gold medal in the World Championships.
Just trying to tempt him up the outside so that he can keep him trapped against the boards and control the race. And if he took the bait there, then Jason could accelerate as the Australian did and decelerate and keep him trapped and dictate when the sprint started. But too experienced to fall for that one.
Glaetzer has been tactically excellent so far in this series of races. And of course the pressure's on him as well, because he knows he's so close to the gold medal. Here we go, the sprint is on in this World Championship final now. They'll take the bell next time over the line. Man against man, they're fighting for that first position. And Glaetzer goes around the outside of Jason Kenny. They're neck and neck down the back straight. Kenny digging really, really deep. He's holding off the Australian here. What a ride from Jason Kenny. He's still alive in this World Championship final. It will go to the wire.
Oh, he kept his cool there. He knew he couldn't relinquish that position on the track. If he just got his back wheel in front, it would have been all over there. And it was 3/4 of a lap to go. It was done. If he didn't get past, then that was it. There's no way he could come the long way round on 2 consecutive bankings.
Well, what a dramatic 3 laps we just witnessed there as Jason Kenny produced the goods to keep alive his chances of becoming the world champion. That was an excellent sprint, but they were looked as if they were full bore with a lap to go there, Chris.
Well, they both knew it was so important to get in front, and he kept Glaetzer high, and tactically that was brilliantly written. I'm really interested to hear what Sir Chris Hoy's got to say about this.
Here it is once again, Glaetzer there on the outside. Jason Kenny kept him up nice and high, didn't he, for as long as he possibly could, and this was a key bit.
Yeah, that was the moment right there, and he just managed to stay level with him enough that he kept that pole position, and Glaetzer probably would have had to do an extra 10 metres or so to get round there.
It's an absolutely fantastic final, and whatever happens now in this final ride, this is by far the best we've seen Jason Kenny for a long time, as you suggested, Chris, probably since he was on this track winning in the Olympic Games 4 years ago. So whatever happens, this has been an excellent day, an excellent couple of days in match sprinting for Jason Kenny. He's absolutely back to his best.
I think he can go away happy here. He's come right through this competition, stormed into the final, riding tactically well and physically well.
So Jason Kenny will get his breath back, and Claire, they will do it all again, but whoever wins next time will win the big prize.
Yeah, it's so exciting, going down to a decider, and it's as if the cat who sleeps all day on the chair just suddenly turned into a lion.
Springs to life. That was amazing. That was classic Jason. He's one of these riders that can ride from the front or the back. He doesn't have a preferred ride, but when he gets to the front, he's so hard to get by. He can pin you on the fence, and that's exactly what he did with Matthew Glaetzer. Glaetzer tried to steamroll him over the top at the bell, and he's a phenomenal athlete, but Jason just kept his nerve. You can see what it means to Justin Grace, the coach. Bearing in mind, this is just the decider. That's not him winning the gold medal. That's how pumped they are, and how pleased Jason was to draw level there. Normally, you don't celebrate until you've won the final medal.
Well, let's have a look. This is the bit you're talking about where he pins Glaetzer up high.
Yeah, Jason was happy to lead out here. This is what he wanted to do. It's a tough track to come round unless you've got the timing absolutely right. So they were both playing it fairly cautiously at this stage, but it's the nerves, and it's the when you're really G'd up and you get impatient, you want to get on with the sprint, but you've got to be patient at this stage. Jason's just keeping him where he wants him, on the hip, on the outside. He knows he can see him there. He knows that if Gletscher's going to try and make a move, he can just accelerate a little bit, gain some height, watch that he doesn't come at the inside and just suddenly dive at the inside here. So come back down the track now. He's really starting to drive now. You can see this is where they'll be doing sort of 2,500 watts, the big guys anyway, and they're sprinting now. And if Gletscher's back wheel overtakes Jason's front, it's all over. So Jason has to hold the inside line. He knows that if he can just keep him right there, he's got it. The race was won there. You know, it looked close, but the race was won with 100 meters to go.
And in the end, he could afford to take it easy over the line, but you see how much it means there. You see the drive, the commitment of Jason Kenny, for all that he talks in a really cool manner. This really matters to him.
Yeah, you know when he's that animated, this really means something to him. He's doubted himself. Other people have doubted him too in the last 4 years, but this is just so great to see him back to his best. Regardless of what happens in this final ride, I think you know, he'll be extremely happy with the way these championships have gone so far.
Now, can I ask, this might be a really stupid question, okay, so that's my
No such thing as a stupid question,
okay,
Claire.
right. Has anybody looked at trying to design any piece of equipment that would give you a reflection back, so you wouldn't have to ride with your head round like this?
It's a good question. I think the point is that anything that isn't essential creates drag. So anything that you would actually be able to look at, potentially your visor or something you could do, but really it's as much about, you know, you can look behind by looking through your legs, and even looking behind, it's okay, it does break your slipstream, but who knows, we should maybe go into business together, create a product. We could become millionaires, Claire.
Well, you know, Dragon's Den.
Who needs that though? It's not
about the money.
We're doing it exactly.
Exactly, it's the passion.
They're doing it for the love out there, and we're enjoying watching it as well. The aerodynamic shape, and you've been so eloquent talking about Gletscher. I'm staggered watching him, the way his back bends, and the fact that he can cut through the air when he's an enormous man.
He's a huge, you know, he's about 6'3", I think 6'2", 6'3", a big guy if you see him walking around, and he weighs probably around 92, 93 kilos, but he can get himself into such an aero position that he's able to dominate, you know. And you look at even someone like Cav on the road, part of his success has been down to his position when he gets into that real low tuck.
Now, I'm surprised with Jason Kenny that I assume is a cool towel around his neck, but there's nothing else, is there? And there's Laura Trott, his fiancée, clearly really interested.
That's one of the tough things, though, because, you know,
she's got a race next.
Even, you know, not just if you're engaged to be married to a teammate, even if it's just your teammates, when you see them performing well or badly, you don't want to get drawn in too much. Obviously, if they're doing well, it's great, it lifts you. But, you know, for example, at the Olympics, Vicky lost the sprint final right before my Kieran final, and it was important that I didn't get distracted by that moment and focus on what I had to do. And that's what she's doing right now. She's obviously delighted that Jason's doing well, but she's got a job to do herself.
Exactly. She is still to come because she's got a big Omnium race, hasn't she, Sarah?
Huge Omnium race, but if we were to ask her, I think she'd say this is her favourite Omnium race. It's the elimination race. She really loves the battle of the elimination race. You'll see her at the very front of the pack in the first half, and then you'll see her move towards the back, trying to pick off the riders and utilising her speed, which is one of her huge strengths.
That is still to come, but the very next thing we will see is the decider. So there is nothing else on the track that happens between rounds 2 and 3. So you have to be good at recovering. You've got to, your body has got to come back to you.
Absolutely, it's so tough, and people think, well, it's just a sprint. You know, how can it be that hard? But it's the damage that you can do to yourself in terms of the resistance that you have to put through the pedals. You know, the force you're putting through the pedals when you accelerate, it really does cause fatigue. And as I've mentioned before, the size of the gears that they're now using, I mean, in the space of the last 20 years, the gear ratios have gone up dramatically, and it's much more of a power strength athlete sport.
So will Jason Kenny himself have physically changed in the last few years?
He's certainly focused more on his strength training and his power training. He's very much a speed athlete, though, and I think he's certainly, this season has really focused on his strength conditioning program.
Mark Cavendish is obviously still recovering from his final Omnium race, and presumably not just recovering physically. He's got to get over the disappointment of an effort that didn't quite come off.
Yeah, it's frustrating for him. He's a professional, though. He'll be thinking about getting ready for tomorrow. A big day from tomorrow, the Madison. You know, it may not have any bearing on Olympic selection, but to be teaming up with Bradley, I mean, the whole of the cycling world is so excited to see them back together for the first time in, I think, 8 years. and the last time they raced was at the Olympics in Beijing, so the Madison will be a big one tomorrow.
Not a happy memory for them from that Olympics.
No, not at all.
And actually, it's going to close the show, isn't it, Sarah? So hugely important for this crowd that they, you know, try and do well at least.
Definitely, and Bradley will be up for it. He'll have had a couple of days rest, and the crowd will be absolutely gunning to see. You can't beat a really great Madison. It's a fantastic way to end the championships. Maybe we can persuade them to do a women's Madison as well.
And they sort of pull each other apart, don't they? It's like a push-me-pull.
It's essentially a relay, and the changeover happens by touching your partner's hand, but you can transfer the energy. So you'll see the way they do it. It's quite a spectacular thing. It's a hand sling, and that it means that you don't have to accelerate up to speed. Your partner throws you back into the race.
And in theory, Wiggo and Cav, that is the dream team. It's the dream partnership.
Well, you know, they're like, it's like a sort of rock star lineup, isn't it? You know, they are the two biggest names in the male side of cycling in the world, in the British side of cycling at the moment, and it's great to see them back together again.
Just going back to the sprinting, because Jason Kenny will not be long before he's back out there on the track. How much has it changed, even just in the time that you've been riding to now, in terms of the speeds that they're going and the power they're generating?
It has moved on, and I think it's predominantly down to the size of the gears they're using. They've realised that it's more efficient, and you can reach a higher maximum speed with a bigger gear. You have to have the strength and power to get it going, and that's the thing. And also the fatigue, the cumulative fatigue from round after round that's created by using the bigger gears, that is also another consideration. But you know, Jason, I think if Jason had been around 20 years ago when the gears were much smaller, I think he would have dominated even more than he has in the last few years. But yeah, the times are quicker, but not just quicker at the top end, it's the strength and depth. If you look down from 1st to 18th in the qualifying for the men, you know, there was nothing in it. There were, I think, 18 guys went under 10 seconds. Usually you get one or two. You know, 10 years ago, 1 or 2 people going under 10 seconds was a big deal. 18 people did it here.
It's amazing. It definitely feels cooler here in the Velodrome than it did certainly on the first night. So, and that has an effect on the times. But we'll come back with a thought on that after we hear from Mark Cavendish, because he is now down with Jill Douglas.
Well, Mark, that was, I'm sure it's no help to you, one of the best points races we've seen on the track for a long time. But you were a marked man from the minute you stepped into this Velodrome.
It's always like that. I don't know any different, really, you know. But it is how it is. I knew it was going to be a case, which is why I was picking up the points, you know. But I wanted to feel my sensations, you know. That's the same feel that it's going to be at the Olympic Games. That was a 52 km/h points race, you know. It's a 1.5 km/h faster than last year. That's a fast race, that was. And so I think it's not just going to be the same feel, it's going to be the same level at the Olympic Games. So I really wanted to test it. I don't know if I'm going, but I really wanted to see where I go along with them best riders, you know. And actually, they've all come off a road program, which my theory was to come off a road. Obviously, I had to qualify, so I had to train the track, the winter, go to Hong Kong, come here. But actually, he was pretty right. That's good to come off the road, you know, with a little bit of track prep. But we'll come off the road, you're going to have that endurance there in the final points. So hopefully, you know, I did enough for selection. I don't know. We're incredibly lucky here in Great Britain that we got a group of strong guys that go to the Olympic Games. We kind of, yeah, we got absolute load of riches there. But yeah, if I do get picked, I know how much more I've got to come from riding a road season. So that makes me quite optimistic. So Shane just said we'll sit down. I'll get the Madison out of the way, Brad, and then we'll sit down and talk and see what happens. So.
Okay, thanks, Mark. See you tomorrow.
Mark Cavendish being very sanguine as much as he can be, saying, I hope I've done enough, but we're in a great position to have so many riders to choose from.
Yeah, I think he seems actually quite upbeat. I was quite pleased to see that there. He's right. You know, I said I didn't think he'd done enough to make it to the games, but, you know, who knows? And it's a nice position to be in for the selectors, for the team, but it's tough for the person that misses out. You know, you've got John Dibben, who is world champion in the points race, and you've got Mark Cavendish, who top 6 there, but is clearly improving as the weeks and months go by.
And here we go, final stages then for Jason Kenny, who will be... Gleitson will be leading this time, won't he?
You draw for the final ride. So,
oh, do you?
So you watch them here, they'll draw. This will be quite crucial, I think. I think Jason would like to lead out again. You see how heavily Matthew Gleitzer's breathing there. That's not because he's trying to psych himself out. He's still recovering from the previous ride, I think. But they'll both be feeling it in their legs. Dry mouth, you can see him there.
Would you take on fluids now or
You don't
not?
want to, because nervous drinking, all it does is basically adds weight to you at that stage. You're not going to make a difference in terms of hydration. You're hydrated up to this point. You don't need to drink seconds before. This is the last race. He's not racing beyond this, so you wouldn't be taking on anything at this stage. The only time you do it is usually for sort of nervous drinking because you've got a dry mouth.
To be fair, they are both heaving, but Glazer is significantly breathing faster than Kenny.
Oh, I mean, your legs are absolutely screaming at this stage. And the hard part is the build-up to the sprint. Once you go 100%, that's what you do, but it's the picking up the pace through the first and second lap, and you feel the sting in your legs, and you're thinking, God, I hope his legs are hurting as much as mine. And it's a mind game at this stage.
And when you're sitting there trying to recover, are you rubbing your legs or just leaving them alone?
You leave them alone. You might have you kind of immediately when you come off the track, you might elevate your feet and lie on the ground, but sometimes, like there was a time I was going to my third race against Michael Burgan at a World Cup, and I was actually being sick in a bucket, but I was trying to hide the bucket and hide the fact I was being sick from him, because I didn't want him to see how tired I was. And I ended up coming up and beating him because I sort of bluffed it and then managed to pull out of the bag on the final ride. So mind games are crucial here.
And they won't look at each other, they won't say a word, no.
But
did anybody talk? Did anybody say, all right, mate? You know?
You get some guys who will, like before they, sometimes they'll kind of pat you in the back or shake your hand, and, you know, I never really knew how to react to that, so I just kind of ignored it. But, you know, you've got to have your game plan in your head and focus on what you're doing and not worry about anyone else.
I'm surprised in a way, because I only know from wearing goggles, obviously the racing goggles, we would always leave it late to pull them down because they can mist up. Yeah, but obviously that's a different design.
These don't steam up unless you're absolutely soaking wet and the water's going to evaporate. But no, they don't steam up at all. I think these ones actually have a flip visor, but no, it's not a problem. Once you've got your helmet on, you put your gloves on last minute. I don't know if I think Glazer doesn't use gloves in this. Might use a bit of chalk in his hands, but you're enjoying every second of recovery at this stage.
Yeah.
You know, you're just thinking, right, okay, suck up the air, focus on the ride. There's Glazer, a bit of nervous drinking.
Well, that's exactly, but because you're so exhausted and you're focused on recovery, does that counterbalance the feelings of nerves? And at this stage, is it not about nerves?
Oh, you'll be nervous right now, but you need the nerves, you need the adrenaline. And the nice thing about this is that they both know this is the last ride. You know, it's not like could they go to another ride if someone else wins. This is it. This is the one they train for. These are the moments they'll both remember for the rest of their lives. When they're old men like me, looking back on their career, they'll savor this. Whether they win or lose, you know, these are special moments.
So here we go, the decider for the men's sprint. This is where the title will be won. Simon Brotherson.
Well, the pair of them looked like they were in the waiting room at the dentist, didn't they, sitting there on those chairs?
Well, I thought I was getting the snip myself, but yeah, the dentist is. The dentist will do. It was. I think I find it incredible watching how hard they're breathing after 15 minutes after an effort. Being an endurance background, I just can't conceive of being that out of breath quarter of an hour after making an effort.
The crowd, or some of them at least, at fever pitch already. Here we go. Winner takes all. 3 laps from gold. The World Championship final goes to a decider. Great Britain against Australia. Jason Kenny, the Olympic champion, against Matthew Glazer, who will lead on this opening lap.
Well, he's certainly not short of support. I mean, we were talking earlier about the power to frontal area being the thing with sprinting to get that speed, but Jason Kenny used power to weight for that superb acceleration that kept Glazer pinned in the previous round. Doing a fair old lick. They both want to get this one underway, I think. Glazer fared well when he led in the previous round, so might see himself as having an advantage here if he can stop Kenny gaining the front position. 2 laps to go.
We're riding with the Australian here. Jason Kenny keeping him in close proximity. No, they're not hanging around here. with a lap and a half to go. They want to get it over with. Different tactics this time. Glaetzer will lead from the front as they take the bell. Jason Kenny looks to get the advantage of going up, but he's got a lot of work to do here now as they go into the back straight. Here we go. Can Jason Kenny claw this gap back against Matthew Glaetzer? Into the finishing straight they go, and Jason Kenny's going to do it! Jason Kenny is the champion of the world for the third time in his career. It's his second world sprint crown, and the Olympic champion is back where he likes racing best, at the Velodrome in London, and he's on top of the world. It's gold for Great Britain, gold for Jason Kenny, and he did it the hard way, having lost the first ride. That was match sprinting at its absolute best.
It was brilliantly ridden. He bluffed Glaetzer into going early. He left himself plenty of room into that back straight so he could accelerate. And you could see with maybe 100 metres to go, he had the speed to come around the outside. And with crowd support like that, how could you lose?
Look at his face. Look at the delight. And what a time to find your best form. It's Olympic year. And Jason Kenny is never better than when the Olympic Games are on the horizon.
Well, that's the first gold, of course, in an Olympic discipline, so very, very important for the British team. Give them a huge confidence boost there.
What a wonderful atmosphere inside this velodrome. Packed to the rafters. And what a fantastic final, and what a great rider Matthew Glaetzer is as well, and will be, I think, for many years to come at 23. He really pushed Kenny hard. I wonder, Chris, whether you feel that maybe experience perhaps also played into it. You know, it was not easy sitting on those chairs waiting to go into a deciding ride. We could sense that the Australian rider had a very dry mouth. But we'll get back to that in a moment, but just look at these scenes now as Jason Kenny is a world champion for the first time since the championships were held in Minsk in 2013. And now, well, Laura Trott there clearly quite distracted, as you would expect, even with her elimination race to come.
It's a lot of gold medals in their house. It's absolutely great to see Jason smiling, isn't it? So often he's been used to things not going his way. We heard him talk in the interview earlier. Well, now he is back on top of the world, and well deserved too.
Well, Jason Kenny hasn't won a medal, never mind the gold, in the sprint for 4 years. 2012 Melbourne, ahead of the Olympic Games, he was a silver medalist there. So it's been a while since he's been on the podium in the World Championships in the match sprint. Congratulations there from Ian Dyer. And here is the winning ride again.
Well, he bluffed, he just accelerated and bluffed Glaetzer into going early. Had the confidence to leave a little bit more room, so he was accelerating into the slipstream as they came into that back straight. Just got himself up and into position, and now as they come into the home straight, he has that little bit of extra height to bring him down towards the line.
And the three-time Olympic champion is now a three-time world champion as well. And remember, he did have to do it the hard way. He lost the first ride. Psychologically, it must have been so tough for him to lose by such a small margin, 0.002 of a second. And a little nod of acknowledgement between the pair of them there. Laura and Jason.
Later at home.
Wow, what a ride from Jason Kenny. And we still have Laura Trott to come here to bring this programme today to a conclusion. And, well, it's not all golden glory, as you can see there, for Jason Kenny. And no wonder the camera goes back to Laura Trott while Jason is being sick into a bucket. There's no other way of putting it. Back to you, Claire.
I think now we're quite grateful he didn't go and kiss her first. But the crowd here were really laughing, responding to that, because it was all going out on the big screen. First of all, the technical side of it, the performance, Chris.
He absolutely nailed that, and he had it won with 100 metres to go. He was patient, and he basically, as Chris said, he bluffed and created this situation where Matt Glaetzer had attacked with maybe 2/3 of a lap to go, forced his hand, and he just waited and ran with so much speed. I mean, Glaetzer rode well up until this point. He kept him close, You don't want to let the gap open up. Jason tried to force him to attack, create a little bit of a gap here, and you'll see that.
So Jason's holding back to create that gap, is he?
Yep. He's bluffing there. Now he gained height, Jason here. Gained height, created that gap, 2 or 3 lengths, and Glazer's going now. Jason's waiting, and now Jason's just winding in.
So Glazer is already at full pelt and has been
was
for a
at full
while.
pelt before half a lap to go. Jason was sort of reeling him in, and he had the perfect slipstream. It was a classic ride from the back. That was the best thing that he could have done in that position.
And now, from you, sum up that as an achievement. 3 times a world champion and going into Rio as the reigning sprint champion.
It's the way he's bounced back from all the doubters. It's the way that he's turned it around. You know, he's not won. I don't think he's even won a World Cup, apart from in Hong Kong. He hasn't won a medal in a World Cup for 2 or 3 years in the sprint. So he's really been out of it, and he's been working hard. It's not like he just sits around and kind of twiddles his thumbs for 4 years and waits for the Olympics to come around. He's working hard day in, day out. But for whatever reason, it hasn't been working for him, and it's just so great to see him doing so well. You see what it means to him. You know that he's a cool customer, but when you see him react the way he did there, it's just fantastic to see.
And it really did matter. I mean, he took a full lap. He got a standing ovation from everyone. He turned and pointed at you, and you were clapping. He looked up at you and said thank you. I mean, what a beautiful thing.
I think also
to witness. What an amazing sporting performance, and here in front of a crowd that appreciate it so much.
It's incredibly special, and seeing what it means to the support staff as well. I saw Justin Grace down there, the coach, the sprint coach, Ian Dyer, Jan van Eyden, all the support staff. There we go.
We couldn't be neutral, you know.
You almost saw my sweaty armpits there.
Ah, and mine. And I love, this is my favourite moment. So Laura Trott, who's obviously meant to be concentrating on her own preparation for her Omnium elimination race coming up, of course she knows what's going on. How could you not? And this moment here,
just a little
wing. Yeah. All right.
He doesn't want to distract her. He doesn't want to, you know, it's
on you go.
Professional, but yeah. Look at that. You don't see him smiling at that very often.
No.
That's
I mean,
brilliant.
Just pure joy. Absolutely lovely. That was fun, wasn't it, Sarah?
It was absolutely brilliant. And I love the way that Matthew Glazer tried to stay outside of the sprinters lane for as long as he possibly could to get Jason to try and take that inside line early. And Jason didn't allow the pressure to get to him at all. He just waited and waited and waited and just ran at him in the final.
Oh my word! He's now warming down. He's back on a bike. You see, I wouldn't want to sit on a bike for about another 6 months.
Well, he's got the Keirin tomorrow, and I think the way he's going now and the morale boost he'll have, he could win the Keirin tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
And
Laura there
is
now focused on what she's got to do. Yes,
absolutely. And all we need her is to win the elimination, and my predictions will come true.
You're very good at this, Chris Hoy.
Thank you. I've done it for a while, the old racing lark.
Yeah, I know, but they're just saying in my ear, nobody likes a smart ass. I didn't say that. The director did.
You've got to celebrate your victories, Claire.
Yes, definitely, definitely. When we came into these championships, Sarah, there was, particularly after day one, a slight feeling of this could all be still going horribly wrong. Completely different now. That's our Britain's 3rd gold medal.
This shows the real character of a team. You have hiccups, you have race incidents, you make mistakes, but it's the way that you bounce back from those that people will judge you on. And the Great Britain team are renowned for being able to bounce back from things and really put in the performances when it matters. So I think everyone's incredibly excited to see what we can do for the rest of the championships.
And looking down behind us, still applause around the... It was meant to be the medal ceremony next, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's the elimination race next. It's meant to be their medal ceremony, I thought, but...
I don't think the crowd can take it.
I'll tell you what, Jason Kenny is with Jill.
Well, many congratulations, Jason. Are you feeling okay?
I feel better now, yeah. Yeah, those last 3 rides were tough and very close together, so yeah.
Yeah, you turned yourself inside out. It wasn't just the power, though, and it wasn't just the victory, it was the manner of the victory. That was some really great match sprinting.
Yeah, I think we were both knackered, to be honest, about that last one. And, you know, a little bit of luck drew 2. You know, Matty had to lead it out. And, yeah, I think he's probably the only person in the track centre whose legs feel as bad as, if not worse than mine. So, yeah, it was just a real slog. The time was slow. You know, it wasn't the prettiest race of the day. It was just a real kind of slog match.
You really time your form. Just here we are, 5 months away from the Olympics, but bang, you're back in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not on purpose. You know, I try really hard all the time, but you know, we always try and optimise everything. We knew we'd found a bit of form in qualifying. We tweaked a bit of something on the bike and just found a few temps. you know, obviously we're always looking for the little bits, and we tweak something. So I knew that I could qualify better, but to qualify second, you know, thousandths off Matty Glazer, who's been the fastest in the world, you know, for a good while now. You know, I was really pleased with that, and it would just we just see if it transferred into the race, and it did. So yeah, like I think qualifying higher up gives you a chance, really, you know, because in recent years I've been qualifying kind of down in 8th, 9th, 10th, and it's just hard rides all day. And I mean, there's no easy rides, but you certainly give yourself the best chance of making the later rounds if you can stick it in the top 3 qualifying wise.
A little bird tells us you pushed a bigger gear in the qualifying than you've been using lately.
Yeah, we tweaked it just a few weeks ago. We stuck an extra tooth on and just found a lot of time. I mean, initially it was on a bad day, you know, and it was just like, oh, sorry, let's chuck a big gear on and see what happens. I found a couple of attempts, and then we put it on a good day and went quicker again. And so it was like, oh, we go with that then. And literally 2 weeks ago.
Great to see you back in the podium. It's been a wee while in the World Championships. When people are writing you off, perhaps wondering when the form will come back, does that spur you on? Is this a reaction to that in some ways?
No, I don't think so. You know, last year was disappointing, there's no doubt about it. And you know, I just made a little promise just to make the most of every single day, really, from then and now. And I was disappointed with the team sprint. You know, I feel like I've always kind of been there and been the kind of the glue that holds it together. And I just didn't feel like myself. I was disappointed. Got stretched on Phil's lap, which was phenomenal, obviously. But also I didn't give Callum the protection either, and I felt a bit kind of responsible for that. So, but you know, at least we've got the tools, and we know we've got the tools. We know that me and Callum are fast, and Matt did a good kilo, and we got Lewis as well at home. So, you know, we have got all the components there, and now we got Phil firing on all 4 as well. Just a case of putting it together.
Well, I'm going to let you go because I think Laura's about to start her elimination race, and I'm sure you want to keep an eye on that. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations to Jason Kenny, and thanks to Jill for grabbing the hot and sweaty, as we refer to them. So here we go for the elimination race. This is a thrilling television spectacle. I have to say it's great. Laura Trott lining up in a very, very strong position in the Omnium, this part of her 6-race schedule over the weekend. Here's Simon Brotherson.
Last race of the night, Laura Trott is in the gold medal position after 2 races, after the scratch race and the individual pursuit. We've got this elimination race tonight. Tomorrow it's the time trial, the flying lap, and then the points race to bring it to a conclusion. There's Sarah Hammer from the United States there on the front, and now we're looking at Laura Trott, the Olympic champion, the former world champion. She's finished second in the Omnium in each of the last 3 years, so a bit of unfinished business in recent times on the track in the Omnium for Laura Trott. She is in the gold medal position on 74 points. Sarah Hammer is second, 2 points behind on 72. Didriksen of Denmark, teenage rider, really talented, is in 3rd place, a further 2 points back. Then it's Kirsten Wild and Laurie Berton of France. Every other lap, we will lose a rider.
Well, this is always our favourite, isn't it? There's no such thing as a neutralised lap in this one. Getting well placed at the start is so important. I think Laura Trott, if this was a world championship, she wouldn't have lost it. She's incredible at riding these races, finding gaps where none exists, just finding herself just nipping out of people's pockets and finding her way to the front.
Well, Kirsten, at the back of the field there, Kirsten Wild from the Netherlands is just trying to make sure she isn't caught out, and Marlies Mejia from Cuba might be. It's between her and the Russian rider, Tamara Balabolina, and it's Balabolina who is the first to go. Balabolina only scores a couple of points then as the first rider out.
And in case you missed it, there's a box on all the riders' handlebars that flashes when they're out, so to make sure that they're absolutely certain if they can't hear it on the tannoy. Incredibly fast, isn't it? A sprint every 30 seconds.
Yeah, and Amalie Didriksen from Denmark is in the red jersey with the two white bands around the outside as they come over the line now, and at the back it's between 13 and 21, and 21 from Hong Kong is Zhao Xiaohuan. So she's the second rider to go, Zhao Xiaohuan.
Sarah Hammer, Laura Trott's main opponent in this, is nicely placed in 2nd position at the moment, having a nice roll around. Laura Trott right at the back, but knows how to ride this event. Got it all to do now, though.
Laura loitering at the back, a little bit of work to do, going around the outside, and the Cuban rider Looks as if she may go. No, she's trying to push forward on the inside. Laura Trott is going to be safe here as they come over the line, and it is the Cuban rider who is out, and there's a crash. The Cuban goes down, and a rider from China on the deck as well. So Marlies Mejia, having just been knocked out, has taken down the Chinese rider as well. Liu Xiaoling is on the deck.
Well, the race will be neutralised for the moment. So they've got 5 laps to get back in. Neither of them in too much of a rush to get up. It's quite a tumble there. That's the danger of going for the inside. Everybody's going around the outside. So there's tantalising gap, this space to get into. But as soon as they've crossed the line, suddenly they're all slowing down and there's nowhere to go.
Well, Marlies Mejias from here's the crash again. And Mejias, the Cuban rider, had already just been knocked out. And she was almost literally knocked out there as she landed on the deck, but fortunately seems to be okay. Was able to pick herself up.
Well, I'm just trying to see who she bumped into, but somehow somebody pulled their feet out and managed to get them back in there, which was pretty impressive. The neutralised lap is continuing, but it's not very neutralised. You can see they're all still jockeying for position, trying to get some benefit.
And Liu Xiaoling is back in the race. And Mejias has got back on her bike, but the red box on her, the box on her handlebars is flashing away.
They've been given 2 laps now. They've been given 2 laps until the neutralisation is over. So
Laura Trott on the inside. And sticking to the front and staying at the front, Lauren Ellis from New Zealand, a 3-time World Championship medalist, a couple of times a silver medalist, including in the points race a few years back, as Sarah Hammer stays at the front. And Mejias there, as you can clearly see, in some discomfort, not surprisingly, but luckily able to walk away, and the race will resume now.
Well, the gun has gone, they're back underway. Sarah Hammer on the front, preparing to expend some energy in a more even style to sit on the front. She's getting swamped at the moment. Laura Trott towards the back, but she's got a couple of riders behind her, and we see her ride like this a lot. She seems quite comfortable with doing something that looks so unnerving for us.
And just caught at the back at the moment is Simona Frapporti, who's working hard, and Liu Xiaoling, I think, still feeling the effects of that crash just a few minutes ago. She is bringing up the rear. She's fighting hard to try and stay in it, and she will stay in it. I think the rider who is out is Tatyana Sharakova of Belarus. A tough sprint there for Liu Xiaoling. And she is still at the back in the red as the bell goes again. And Laura Trott in second place at the moment, just on the shoulder of the rider from New Zealand. Sarah Hammer again up to the front. She's determined not to take any chances here. And Liu Xiaoling still working hard near the back of the field, trying to avoid elimination, which might come now. Well, no, she's done it again, and it's the rider from Japan who is out this time. 25, and that is Sakura Tsukagoshi.
Well, Hammer is certainly not taking any risk, but she's doing an awful lot of work, whereas Laura Trott is tucked in the wheels there and using the volume of riders at the moment. Know that she doesn't have to be on the front. That will come a little bit later on. Just taking the opportunity to nip around the outside to be on the safe side.
Yeah, Laura Trott about 5th at the moment as they come around here, and a little sprint on once more. It was a close call as to who is out there. And 36, Sa Mei Yu from Chinese Taipei is the latest rider to leave. There she is. Well, it's relentless, isn't it?
Well, the rules of this event, the judges too have got half a lap to make a decision and call it out, and if they don't do it in time, then they don't take anybody out in that particular lap.
And Laura Trott in a decent position here, about halfway down the field, and as you say, Chris, Hammer continues to do a lot of work, and suddenly Lauren Ellis from New Zealand is caught out at the back there, having been at the front for many of the early laps. So Ellis goes, coming number 32, your time is up. And they'll take the bell again next time over the line. Kirsten Wild in the orange of the Netherlands, coming to the front for the first time. Jolien Dura in the pale blue of Belgium towards the front. the back of the field at the moment. Simona Frapporti and Liu Xiaoling, the last two riders. Also Germany, Anna Nauer, caught up at the back, and it is the Chinese rider Liu Xiaoling who crashed earlier in the race, who is out now. But she gained a few more points, and she'll get the applause of the crowd for a gutsy performance in picking herself up off the ground.
Sarah Hammer's found herself underneath and trapped at the moment. Not a great position to be in there. She's okay at the moment, but she has no control. So she's going to be a little bit worried there. She's going to have to force a gap. Laura Trott comfortably on the front. This is going to be interesting to watch.
Well, I tell you, who is under pressure. Annette Edmondson from Australia, the defending world champion. Annette Edmondson at the back now just eases forward, and Nauer of Germany may go. Very close when there were three riders there. I wonder whether it was even Spain, and Hammer was caught out towards the back of the field as well.
Well, she's trying to work her way around the outside now. Really got caught out there.
And it's Spain. It's Leire Olavarria of Spain who was out that time.
And Hammer is having to force her way all the way back around the outside. She's certainly got the legs to do it, but you can only do that so many times. Perfectly positioning herself to give Laura Trott a breather.
Well, Diederiksen from Denmark is one from the back at the moment. She is in third place overall. A reminder, Laura Trott leading the overall standings by 2 points. And the latest rider out is Angie Gonzalez of Venezuela.
Bumps just getting smaller and smaller here.
It's great the way the excitement and the tension ratchets up as the field slowly gets whittled down.
Those sprints will be starting to tell. It's Laura Trott who's at the back now. We've seen her here plenty of times. She knows what to do. I used to panic about watching this, but now I have complete confidence.
Well, she just accelerated away from Frapporti and from Diederiksen, and the pressure's on Diederiksen here, but it's Canada, I think, who've gone. Alison Beveridge. It is Alison Beveridge, who won a team pursuit silver medal last night. Busy couple of days for her, as indeed it has been for Laura Trott, who rode the scratch race and won it as well. Kirsten Bild on the inside. Laura Trott coming to the front now for the first time.
Sarah Hammer is now out the back and is going to have to fight her way around the outside.
And Sarah Hammer's going to have to dig in here to try and go around the outside of the German rider, and suddenly the Italian Frapporti is caught at the back, and she hasn't really got anywhere to go. Has she got the speed to stay in the race? No.
I think she was almost resigned to that one. She rode into the bottleneck at the bottom. Hammer is again at the back here, working hard.
Down to 9, and Laura Trott still there on the front at the moment. 8 riders in this sprint, with Frapporti having just gone. Great Britain, France, Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands, USA going around the outside, with Hammer, Australia and Germany. The big hitters are still there as they come up towards the line this time, and oh, it might be Jolien D'Hoore from Belgium there. It is D'Hoore from Belgium who's gone, and Jolien D'Hoore looks really frustrated there.
Favourites always get caught out, don't they, in this event from time to time. Not everybody can have a good ride here. Doesn't follow the form book.
Trott making sure that she didn't get boxed in there by the French rider Laurie Berton, and Kirsten Bild will lead out this sprint. Anna Nauer from Germany on the back, just behind Annette Edmondson from Australia, and it's going to be a close call here, but it's the German rider who is out.
Just 6 riders remaining in this event now.
And this is where it starts to get interesting. Diederiksen on the front, Wild in second place. Berton there for France in the navy blue, then Trott, then Hammer, then the defending world champion Edmondson from Australia.
It's a real change in tactics for Sarah Hammer. She normally rides from the front, and she's riding sprinting from the back every time here.
And Laurie Berton's being put under pressure here as Edmondson tries to go around the outside. This is going to be a close one, and it is Kirsten Wild from the Netherlands.
Well, Laura Trott cut it fine there. They were coming fast around the outside. All of them riding around the top here like it's a sprint.
Down to 5, Diederiksen.
Now
Berton.
riding tactically on the wheel of Hammer. She's going to try and box her in here, and Sarah Hammer senses the danger and pushes out quickly.
Sarah Hammer saw that one coming, and Annette Edmondson again is the one who's got a lot of work to do here. She's consistently finding herself near the back here, and this time it is Annette Edmondson who will go out. Edmondson's done well to make it to these championships. She had a nasty collision with the car while out training in Australia shortly before, just a few days before the team flew out here, and Diederiksen is off the front at the moment.
Now this is getting very tactical now, because these are the 3 best events coming up for Laura Trott, and she needs to use them.
Burton going on the inside, Sarah Hammer leading out, and Laura Trott at the back at the moment of the trio. You would think she has the speed to deal with this scenario. Laurie Burton from France looks as if she may go, unless she's got an extra little turn of pace, but Laura Trott safely through. Diederiksen, Trott and Hammer, they were the top 3 going into this event, and they are the last 3 on the track.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating final. Who's got the best sprint? Hammer is actually sprinting better than I've seen her in the past. She's a strong rider, but she's looking quite sharp in this event. I'd say Laura Trott should have the measure.
Diederiksen, 2-time world junior champion for Denmark in the red, as Laura Trott tries to go to the front, and Sarah Hammer now is just caught behind at the moment. 3 up sprint for the line here, and it's Diederiksen who gives way, and it's Trott and Hammer who were 1 and 2 going into this event at the top of the standings, who will remain 1 and 2, because it is those 2 that are the last 2 left on the track. It's come down to this.
Well, it's a match sprint, and every point is going to matter between these 2, because they're so evenly matched. Surely Laura Trott can take the sprint here in front of a home crowd.
Sarah Hammer tries to go on the inside line. She tries to keep Laura Trott up at the top of the track, force her to go the long way round, and now the sprint is really on between the pair of them, and Hammer has the lead as they go into the finishing straight and takes the win ahead of Laura Trott. Sarah Hammer wins the elimination race in this women's Omnium, but Laura Trott has now been just knocked down to 2nd place on the countback. The pair of them are both on 112 points at the top of the standings, but Trott just nudged off the top step at the moment. Diederiksen stays 3rd.
Well, that was the moment that Sarah Hammer, rather than lead it out, rode tactically. She really has ridden a smart race here, not the way we've seen her ride it before. And that was the moment, really, where Laura Trott had to make a decision, and she couldn't quite get around the outside, and it was over once she was held on the hip. It was just too far to come around somebody who she's very evenly matched with.
Well, Sarah Hammer, who's already won a gold medal at these championships just 24 hours ago with the team pursuit squad from the United States, is continuing to show that she really is on the top of her form. Such an impressive performer, and has been for so many years. An 8-time world champion. She's twice been champion in the Omnium event in 2013 and 2014, and it is shaping up to suggest that she will be the biggest obstacle that Laura Trott will face between now and the end of this competition tomorrow.
And that, of course, was really the ace card for Laura Trott. I think it's fair to say that's her best event. She's certainly good at the other races too, but Sarah Hammer, she didn't put a foot wrong there.
I think she enjoyed that, didn't she, psychologically, Sarah Hammer, at beating Laura Trott in such an event in front of her home crowd. It was excellent riding by the American. Let's have a look at the standings here now. We're halfway through this competition, and it's very, very close. Here's the result from the race that we've just seen. We'll get confirmation of the points total in just a moment, but there's nothing between them in terms of the points at the moment at the top of the leaderboard, as we just go all the way down the field, down to Balabolina in 20th place. Still awaiting confirmation officially, but they're on 112 points each. There we are. Sarah Hammer just in the lead, but Laura Trott very much in the thick of it as she bids to become the world champion for what would be the 2nd time this week, having already won the scratch race.
Well, it was a terrific effort there from Laura Trott, and enough, obviously, to keep her there. But the experience of Sarah Hammer, the moment down when she kept her up high.
Yeah, that was pretty much like a match sprint, wasn't it? She had to keep her on the hip, make her go the long way round. And she's got horsepower. You know, Laura's strength was really being efficient and small and aerodynamic, whereas Hammer does have that bigger power output. But it was down to who could suffer the most here. They were both exhausted. You could see it, and you could see it in their faces at the end. So Sarah Hammer up the inside here, keeps her on the hip, forces Laura. The only option Laura has is to try and go over the top, and she's having to go the long way round here. But Sarah Hammer just keeps her on the hip and then really digs in here and wins it by a bike length. Laura's already given up at that stage there, and that's mental strength, you know, to do that in front of a crowd that are willing the home athletes on. You know, you've got to admire that. That was a great ride, but also I think Laura rode very well, and she's still very much in the shout.
Absolutely, and Sarah, it will be a case of who can come out tomorrow for those final 3 events, for the time trial, the flying lap and the points race. Who can recover from that? Because huge effort for both of them.
Yeah, huge effort for both of them. We saw Laura trying to employ some incredible tactics mid-race. She spotted Sarah Hammer was pinned on the bottom of the track, and she came over to stretch it out to see if she could get Sarah Hammer to come out of the back and then back round, and she just failed to be eliminated on that one, and obviously it paid off for Sarah. But
maybe that's why Sarah Hammer celebrated so much, because she knew Laura tried to get her out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really, really impressive to see how Laura was riding that with her head the whole way through. Absolutely brilliant, and they'll have another ding-dong like that in the points race.
It was very tight. As it went from 6 riders to 5, we were going, oh my word, that was a bit tight. Laura, you were near the back there.
No, both of them were putting in some huge efforts sprinting round, and we've never seen, as the commentary said, we've never seen Sarah Hammer doing that quite so often. So she's clearly been working on that event above all, because she knows that's the one that was almost guaranteed for Laura, because Laura's tactically so brilliant.
We have talked about the number of events Laura Trott is taking on over these World Championships. The thing is, she seems to just love it, and she's certainly appreciating the crowd who are at the moment cheering her fiancé, Jason Kenny, his medal ceremony coming up next. She just loves it. She laps it up.
She really does, and Sarah Hammer's got an equally busy programme as well, because she will have ridden 3 rounds of the team pursuit, so the only difference will be that scratch race. So both athletes really showing what can be done when you're absolutely on the top of your game.
Well, brilliant stuff. Thank you both for your company, for your input, for your explanation of things, your insight, being sensational. So Chris Hoy and Dame Sarah's story. We are going to finish the red button coverage tonight with the medal ceremony for the men's sprint, because you know who won gold. Jason Kenny. Here's Simon.
And there is the podium lineup. And that win for Jason Kenny takes Great Britain to the top of the medal table. Once again, the 3rd gold for Great Britain.
Will be presented by the president of the UCI.
Brian Cookson there on the left of your picture, the president of the UCI.
Médaille de bronze, représentant la Fédération de Russie. Winner of the bronze medal, representing the Russian.
Bronze medal this time for disappointed Russian Denis Dmitriev. So consistent, but still searching for that elusive world sprint crown. Silver last year, 1 step down on the podium this time around. There's Matthew Glakeser from Australia, who finished with the silver medal here today. Pushed Jason Kenny all the way, and it's good to see him smiling. He should be proud of his efforts here, and he knows that he's very much in the ballpark when it comes to the sprint when we get to the Olympic Games in Rio in the summer.
I think the question mark for me, as we've talked about quite a lot through this competition, is whether we're going to see the French make a comeback and get in, because normally, I mean, this is the big event, the sprints, and we'd like to see that, but right now this is what we want to see. Jason Kenny about to climb on the top step.
And this is what Jason Kenny has wanted to hear for a little while now. The words that he's hearing now. Jason Kenny, world champion. And that is a well-deserved standing ovation. A truly thrilling final. And there's the end result for the man from Bolton. He is a world champion for the 3rd time in his career. And all the effort, all the hard work, all those tough training sessions, now worthwhile. Here's the end product. Flowers from Bob Howden of British Cycling to Matthew Glaetzer there, who was the Commonwealth Keirin champion in Glasgow a couple of years ago, and the fastest in qualifying. But it's not just about who's the fastest in qualifying, it's about who can back it up ride after ride and who can deliver. And it was Jason Kenny's night, and that's why we're about to hear the national anthem. What a moment for Jason Kenny as the champion of the world in Olympic year. Superb series of rides, culminating in a thrilling final. He lost the first match-up by 2/1000ths of a second, but he pulled it out of the bag, pushed all the way by Matthew Glaetzer. But he had the experience, he had the tactical nous, and in the end he had the speed as well. And Jason Kenny, for the first time since Minsk in 2013, can say that he is a world champion. And we'll see one or two pictures on the front of the newspapers tomorrow. But that brings to a conclusion our coverage tonight on the penultimate day of these Track World Championships. And what a night we have had. Lots more to come as well from Lee Valley Velo Park with us tomorrow on BBC Two from 2 o'clock and on the Red Button in Scotland. But from us tonight, thank you for watching and good night. We'll see you tomorrow.